Games, Paris 2024.
With Naga Munchetty.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Hello and welcome to day 12 of the Olympic Games, where, after missing out on a medal in the men's 1500 metres last night, Norway's Jakob Ingebrigtsen is back on the track as he starts his pursuit of gold in the men's 5,000 metres. Catherine Merry.
It is day 6 in the sunshine here at the Stade de France, and it is the morning after the night before for Norway's Jakob Ingebrigtsen. After missing that medal in the men's 1500 metres, he returns on the track shortly to start his assault on the 5,000 metre title. Also this morning, we've got 3 strong Brits going in the heats of the men's 800 metres, but all today we're building up to the men's 400 metre final later, with Matthew Hudson-Smith aiming for the second British gold here.
The USA's Nelly Corder is on the course. She starts the defence of her women's individual stroke play title. Ian Carter.
It's an uncertain start for the world number one. 3 putts at the first, 1 over par. Work to do at the fourth to remain at that mark, with a 6-footer coming up to save par. It's Celine Borger of Norway who's setting the pace, 2 under par through 5. Charlie Hull struggling at 2 over.
And Team GB's Old MacDonald enters the arena in the men's park skateboarding.
I basically started skating these park competitions and had to relearn how to do a lot of the tricks that I knew to do. So it was some of the most frustrating and challenging skateboarding I've ever done.
We'll tell you all about 51-year-old Andrew MacDonald. We'll bring you every Team GB medal live here on 5 Live. You can also follow events on the BBC Sport website and app, or watch on BBC One and iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sport at the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
Welcome to the programme. So, a day without a gold medal for Great Britain and Northern Ireland yesterday. Today's another day. Yesterday we still had 4 medals to celebrate, and there was plenty of drama. Today there are 23 gold medals up for grabs. Who might get hold of one? GB's Matthew Hudson-Smith is in with a great chance in the men's 400 metres. GB world record holders, Australia, in the men's team pursuit final. That's who GB's facing. The women's pursuit team begins a bid for the medals. And there's Gimson and Burnett in the sailing, subject to the weather, of course. Meanwhile, 51-year-old Andy MacDonald will be taking on a considerably younger generation in the men's park skateboarding competition. We'll be hearing from him later in the programme. Let's start at the Stade de France, shall we? Where a busy morning session of athletics action is already underway. And watching it all unfold is Commonwealth 400-metre silver medalist Alison Kirbishley. Hi, Alison.
Good morning, Naga.
And Olympic 400 metres bronze medalist Catherine Merry. Hi, Catherine.
Good morning again, Naga.
Hello. What's the atmosphere like there? It feels like, it just feels like I literally watched, went to sleep, woke up, and now I'm back with it.
Oh, Naga, it's the best Groundhog Day ever in Stade de France. 80,000 again are packed in, half the stadium bathed in shade for one group of the high jump qualifiers, by the way, and the second half of the stadium in bright sunshine. We have so much going on, as always. As you'd expect, it's thick and fast here. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I've literally just watched Murtaz Essabar Shim, who, remember, shared an Olympic high jump gold medal with his good friend Gianmarco Tamberi back in Tokyo. Both of them are here, and he's looking really good in qualifying, but so much going on.
That 1,500 metres final yesterday, I was a bit gobsmacked, right? So
As we all were,
yeah, okay, good. So I'm not kind of out of sync with everyone here. So Jakob Ingebrigtsen, right? There's this big rivalry, isn't there, with him and Josh Kerr, and I loved all the kind of, bitey comments and all of that. And then, obviously, bang on Josh Kerr's side, and then, who are these Team US guys coming out? I mean, what did you make of it?
It was exactly as certainly the Americans are pleased with the result this morning, but You only need to look at the headlines today, Naga. You know, I'm looking down now. Hocker has last laugh after Kerr, and Ingebrigtsen's tiresome war of words. Total humiliation. Josh and Kerr, Jakob Ingebrigtsen face off and failure, and you know it literally goes on.
Do you know what
the
I
whole
compared it
world,
to?
the whole world are blown away. Basically, they raced each other. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, you know, he's the one that. He was the pacemaker, Naga. He ended up being the pacemaker. He didn't do the damage to the rest of the field, as he was so concerned about pushing Josh Kerr wide in the final 120 metres. He left a door open for Cole Hocker, and Cole Hocker seized the opportunity, seized his moment. A 3-second personal best, an American, just shy of the American record, and he's Olympic champion this morning. As you said, Yared Nuguse, the other American, was in his slipstream. To you know, if you'd have told anyone that the winner wouldn't be Jakob or Josh, and it would be an American winner, and Jakob wouldn't get a medal, somebody would have thought you were, you know,
bonkers.
You were just making it up. You were bonkers.
Yeah.
But yeah, we called it the shocker from Hocker, and that's exactly what it was.
I sat there and I was being all wise and sage, and I turned around to my partner and said, "That's the tortoise and the hare, isn't it?" Do you know what I mean? I know it's like
almost was. I mean, the thing is, what we've got it was operating part of that race at world record pace, and that world record was set by the great Hicham El Garouge back in the 90s. And the thing is, he didn't do the damage, and what I mean by that is the guys in that field they've stepped up, and they now can actually hold him at his own game, which is just going out and running a very steady, fast pace. And, you know, he didn't have any sort of change of pace. He didn't try and kind of outfox them, outsmart them. He just acted as their pacemaker. And in the same way that you see in the Tour de France, a lead-out man, and then Mark Cavendish comes late. That's exactly what happened last night. It's just Cole Hocker was Mark Cavendish, and he outsprinted him in the final stages.
I love all these comparisons. I love them. I'm hearing, am I hearing the first heat of the men's 5,000 metres? Because I know Jakob Ingebrigtsen is going to be in the second heat, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is, Naga, and I think he'll appreciate those probably 12 extra minutes of rest after his exploits last night. Yeah, we've got 2 heats of the men's 5,000 metre. We've got good British representation as well, and they're just lining up on the back straight in the shade by the high jumpers that I mentioned are qualifying. And before they get underway, we spoke a lot about Jakob, haven't we? But Naga, we have to give a shout out to Josh Kerr, who picked up a silver medal in that men's 1,500 metres last night, taking down Sir Mo Farah's British record, and he was understandably absolutely delighted, and probably nearly as delighted as the French crowd here that you can hear roaring, because Grecia of France goes in this first heat, and there are even more, Alison, even more, Naga, plastic French flags. They're doing a roaring trade here.
They are, aren't they? I'll tell you what, you'd love
They're
this
everywhere.
You'd love this guy, Naga. Jimmy Gressier is a huge character here in France, better known on the cross country, and he did the best thing ever in a cross country when he won the European title a few years back. He tried to knee slide in a cross country when it was thick with mud, and he didn't kind of get that, you know, Mbappe style slide across the football pitch. He literally face planted into thick mud. But yeah, he was here in the 10,000 metres, and this event is so exciting because it's your big 10k runners coming down to meet your speedy 1,500 metres, and they meet in the middle at 5,000 metres. As we know, Mo Farah used to do the double 5,000, 10,000. There's many guys here, Grecia being one of them, trying to do that.
I'm looking forward to this. I quite like that, the fast ones and the sprinters kind of jostling it out. You were talking about Josh Kerr. Absolutely, we should be whooping for Josh Kerr. Amazing performance. He's been talking to Rachel and Rick this morning, and obviously he's a touch disappointed. He said, you know, he did everything he could to win that gold medal.
The atmosphere was pretty electric in the Stade de France yesterday, so I knew that with you know the even the sheer amount of noise that it was going to push the pace a little bit faster even. So it was just about kind of weathering that storm early and trying to stay as relaxed as possible as you can at 150, 151 through the 800 split, and staying composed for that last 600, and obviously ran out a bit of steam in the last 25 meters or so, but that was the best I had on the day, and it's the fastest the Olympics has seen, so I've got to walk away happy with it.
At that stage, sort of halfway through the race, were you aware of the threat from the Americans?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult because it was so loud, and the screens weren't really showing our race all that much, so I wasn't looking around all that often, but I could feel that there was a couple of guys still with us, so I knew that I was going to need another gear down the home stretch, and I was able to put that in. It just, I wasn't able to kind of withhold that pace for that last 20 meters or so, but I knew there were some people around, and Ingebrigtsen felt me and started pushing out into lane 2 to push me wide, but that's racing for you.
Well, I was saying this to Rick yesterday because we were texting afterwards, and I was saying, I'm sure Ingebrigtsen's arm was getting wider and wider trying to edge you out there. And I just wondered if, and obviously then Hocker took the inside lane and managed to get on that little bit of burst, and just wondered if there had been any way to kind of get past him sooner. But I'm just not sure you could have done anything else. And congratulations on a PB, on a national record. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to have regrets in a fast race like that. I haven't had a 1500 meter PB since the Olympics in 21, and so to get that off the British record off of Mo Farah, and obviously everything that he's achieved in his career, it seems like it feels like a huge moment for me, and cementing myself as one of the best 1500 meter runners in the UK. So that's it's a nice cherry on top.
What were your emotions when you crossed the line? Because you smiled pretty quickly, but as you'd said all along, you're absolutely going for that gold. So I guess there will have been a little bit of frustration or disappointment in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the thing is when you cross the finish line and you don't quite do what you want to do, but you're also staring at someone that's just had the biggest moment of their life. It's a big part of it's making sure you're not taken away from that, and giving that respect. And I want to go and shake his hand and give him his moment. And I the nice thing was being able to run faster than that British record. I hadn't seen the time split yet, and obviously got the silver medal by 0.01 as well, so I was reasonably happy with that too. But yeah, it was a bittersweet moment. I think going after gold and only being less than 0.2 of a second away from it stings a little bit, but that's what keeps us coming back for more and going through another Olympic cycle.
And I know and can see, we can all see how much you love the Olympics experience as well, and the pride you take in that. And I have to say, as we mentioned already, but being involved in one of those races that will become iconic through the years is something really special to think about. But now, do you get the opportunity? I don't know whether you go straight back to the States or whether you get to hang around with Team GB. We were talking to some of the medalists earlier on this week who've been describing one or two parties that take place when events wind up, and they've got a bit of free time, and sort of random sports people turning up, mixing with basketball players and rowers and triathletes and whoever else it may be. Do you get to indulge in a bit of that?
Yeah, I think, one of the coolest parts of the experience for me right now is that, I was able to be voted as team captain for athletics, and I take that job very seriously, and that means I'm going to be here right till the end, going to the stadium and supporting my fellow athletes that are going out there and showing their life's work out there on the track. And it's really cool to be still within that atmosphere, and I'm going to try and offer as much as I can to this team until the very end.
I'd like to have a camera trained on you watching Matt Hudson-Smith tonight.
Oh, I'll tell you what, he's ready. He's ready for something special. He
looked good, didn't he?
He's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
And when you do go to the party at the end with the other athletes, will you be wearing the glasses?
Only the next day.
Yeah. The lights are too bright, I guess, in the Stade de France. I had to keep the shades on, but
we love the shades.
I loved your entrance into the stadium yesterday. Honestly, it was so pumping. It was just absolutely brilliant. We loved it.
Yeah, it was pretty electric in there. I wanted to give the crowd as much as possible to get hyped for it. I think you could feel the energy in there last night for sure.
Yeah, it was sensational. Congratulations on a brilliant run, brilliant race, and a brilliant silver medal. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, he sounds like such a cool dude, doesn't he? He's such a cool dude, don't you think? Alison, Catherine.
He's got a job at voiceovers afterwards,
he
hasn't he?
has,
He's just got such a great voice. Yeah, I mean, look, I've had the pleasure of, because my other half's son went to school in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and he used to train with Josh's group back at Edinburgh, you see. So I've known and followed Josh's career since he was a young a young boy under 17 and coming through the ranks, and he's always been very humble, but at the same time very driven, and it's been an absolute pleasure to see him rise to the levels that he is. And sadly we've lost him to America, because he went out there to college and then never returned. Met his partner who he went to university with, and they're settled over there, and the Brooks Beasts that he trains with, it's a great setup with Danny Mackay as coach. It's right for him, and I just think it's going to be a long 4 years, but he loves racing and he loves getting the best out of himself, and I think maybe it's destiny, because it's been a bronze, a silver, and he's just got the big G missing.
We may be able to talk about it, because I was hearing Dina Asher-Smith is out and training in America, isn't she? Arizona? I might have got that wrong.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she moved to Texas.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry. Okay. So I'm quite keen on kind of that setup and like what's different, but maybe we'll talk about that. But do you want to just give me an update on this first heat, round one of the men's 5,000 metres? Because we've got a Team GB chap in this.
Yeah, we have. It's being led at the moment, much to the delight, Naga, of the French crowd, by the French athlete Hugo Hay. And also we have British interest, as you say, with George Mills. George Mills ran in the semi-finals of the 1,500 metres, son of obviously former footballer for England Danny Mills. He's back for the 5,000 metres. He's in the mix as well, as is Patrick Deaver, the Preston athlete. And if it wasn't for Mo Farah, Patrick Deaver would be the British record holder over the 10,000 metres. But the thing is, at the moment, Naga, they are not going particularly fast. It's the top 8 that go forward to the final on Saturday. There's about a 20-metre spread of all of the athletes in this first heat, and the Brits are in the mix. They're in the middle of it, and the French crowd are amazing, Naga. They stand up. Those that are able are standing up every single lap, like a Mexican wave style, as the athletes go past to support them. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, so far so good for the two Brits. They're still in the mix, because there's only, as I mentioned, a few metres between this whole field, because it's pretty slow.
And we've got 6 laps to go. So while that's going on, can we talk about the men's high jump at the moment, the final? Which is oh, I heard that sigh. Was that you, Alison? Let's talk about this final that's been taking place.
It's got some real characters in it, and of course everybody remembers last time round the two men that shared the gold medal. And we're just going to bring you right up to date. I'm pulling because we've got 2 pools in the high jump, and obviously what they do is they set a standard of 2.29 of an automatic qualifier. They want 12 men into the final. Now, if 12 don't get 2.29, they then go to the next height below. And obviously, as we've seen, sadly with Molly Caudry in the pole vault not qualifying. The pole vault was set at 4.55, but they ended up taking 20 women through to that final, which is this evening. So we're now just looking, the bar is at 2.24. Mutaz Barshim of Qatar, everyone's favourite, Mr. Cool Dude. He wears the shades. I think he did it before Josh Kerr, didn't he?
Yes, I think he did. Yeah, he's the shady one. And the shady one. Wears shades. He's in the shade posse. But yeah, as Alison said, Naga, look, basically the story is they shared the gold medal. 2 high jumpers shared the gold medal, didn't they, Al, in Tokyo, because they decided they didn't want to jump off. One of them is the one in the shades, Mutaz Barshim of Qatar, and the other is Gianmarco Tamberi. And they are very good friends. They shared the gold medal in Tokyo, and they're moving along very nicely indeed. But Gianmarco Tamberi, Alison had a medical update on our Italian star, because he's not been well at all coming into these Paris Olympics, has he?
No, I mean, he made the headlines right at the start, because obviously he carried the flag for the Italians, and many people saw the tweet afterwards, because he was vigorously flying the flag, and he dropped his wedding ring into the Seine. So this beautiful prose that he put, apologising to his wife about his wedding ring, kind of got in the headlines. And then a week later, he puts a post out of a picture of him in bed in Italy. He'd flown back to Italy just to do his final preparations ahead of Paris, and he's suffering with kidney stones. So he'd gone into and anyone who does suffer with that, I know my other half has it, and it's absolute agony. So he'd actually gone in. He was hospitalised for 24 hours.
Are they the ones you have to just wait to
try
pass?
And you either have to pass them, or they
try
move,
to break them up, don't
that's
they?
That's it. They try to, and I think obviously one had moved and he was in absolute agony. But he's here. and he's certainly giving the crowd what they want. He's a real conductor, isn't he? He loves being the conductor of an orchestra with the fans, and he's done that already today. 2 clearances, 2:20 and 2:24.
Do we know
the next? Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, it's a trivial question. Do we know what colour his wedding ring was?
We don't actually.
It looked like
Was it silver, platinum, gold?
It was. I think it was like that. It's now sitting at the.
We'll ask the fish that are in the.
I was going to say it's now sitting at the bottom
in
of
the
the
river.
I love the fact that he'd said to his wife, "Darling, if you would like to come and you throw yours in, so they can be together at the bottom of the same."
It's unbelievable. But I have to tell you, Naga, the reason it did fly off is because he is so determined to retain his Olympic gold medal. He's worked so hard this year and battled injuries, and he's lost a lot of weight. He's in superb shape. His body fat is minimal, so he's lost weight. And as Alison said, he was waving the Italian flag a bit too excitedly. He said it dropped down, it bounced off the boat in the opening ceremony, and in slow motion, the angle was wrong, and he just watched it fly over the edge of the boat and plop, plop. So,
good sound effects.
Thank you very much.
I'm hearing
he'll replay. He'll get another one.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure there'll be many people offering to help him replace that. I'm seeing movement in this heat, this 5,000 metres heat. Do you want to take over and take us through it?
Yeah, there's a couple of laps to go in this first heat of the men's 5,000 metres, and what was slower than a slow thing has now decided to pick up the pace, because that's what happens when only the top 8 will go into Saturday's 5,000 metres Olympic final. Crop of Kenya is in the mix. Harigos Gebriwet. Now, he is a superb athlete, the world leader, the second fastest man of all time, the Ethiopian, is at the front of the field. And Britain's George Mills and Patrick Diva, Alison, are also moving up into about 5th or 6th place. But George Mills on the inside line at the moment is stuck in a little bit of traffic. It's condensed, and now at some point somebody's got to make a move here and string it out.
Yeah, and just try to put perspective on it. They were pretty much jogging at around about 71, 72 second laps. They're now operating at 60-second laps. And that is why all of a sudden we're in a race. It's turned into a last lap burn up. They've got 500 metres to go. Currently, George Mills and Paddy Diva are not in qualifying spots. They're going to have to run the race of their life, and one athlete has already fallen to the ground. It looked like Lubalu, or was it Mohammed from Canada? But anyway, George Mills had to do a bit of steeplechase hurdling there. George Mills, Paddy Diva have to get in the top 8 if they want to make this final.
They're going down the back straight. You can hear the roar of the near 80,000 here at the Stade de France. The French leaders are still in the mix here. The guys that were leading this first heat, and there's been a move with 200 metres to go. Nordas of Norway has said, right, let's go. Let me get myself into a top 8 position. And it is Nordas that leads. George Mills is still trying to stay in contention with a top 8 spot. It's going to be close for the British athlete. But in the sunshine, in this first heat of the men's 5,000 metres, the Norwegian leads by a metre. Gebriwet's in there, absolute carnage. 4 athletes have gone down, and I think one of them is George Mills, who throws his hands in the air. But Nordas is going to win the heat. He does a fist bump with Hagos Gebriwet, the Ethiopian, as they cross the line. Those two have made the final. But once again, for George Mills in particular, as we check on Patrick Diva, it was so busy, Naga, with athletes trying to get a position in the home straight. 4 fallers went down, and one of them was Great Britain's George Mills.
That was so going to happen. These guys, and George Mills has done this so many times. He doesn't put himself in the best of positions, and you're always going to get caught up in these absolute last lap burn-ups when there's way too many people, and they're all trying to get some racing room. And once one goes down, it's like Skittles, and they all go down. And I thought that he'd saved it as they approached the bell, because he had to hurdle, and now he's just he's having an argument with the French guy. He believes it was the French guy that tripped him. We're just looking at the replay, Naga. I mean, it was always going to happen. There's too many of them.
What, too many in the race, or too many bunched up in a certain point?
Too many of them trying to get the same inside line racing room, and when you've got the kind of the speed starting to rise in those latter two laps, and everyone just gets frantic, and there's just legs flying, and there's just more chance of clipping someone. Did you see what happened there, Kath? We've just got a replay on our screens.
It's a tough one to call, Naga, because it looks like 6 of one and half a dozen of the other on my first glance, but I can see why George Mills is having a word with the French athlete. Jimmy
What
Gracia.
difference does it make? If he has a word with him, what difference does it make? I mean, I know you can get out your frustrations. It doesn't change anything, does it?
I mean, to be honest, I'm just looking at that back. I don't think Hugo Hay from France had anything to do with that, really. He looked like he actually stepped on the inside curb and kind of ran over. We're just looking at it. They're having proper argy-bargy on there. Hugo, I think George Mills is a little bit... I mean, I haven't seen anything that says that the French guy, Hugo Hay, had anything to do with that. I think he just toppled over, off-balanced, kind of held his arm out and then clipped one of the other athletes. And like I say, unfortunately, I mean, I feel for Mike Foppen from the Netherlands, because he was behind George Mills, and unfortunately once George Mills went down, he took Mike Foppen with him.
Yeah, Patrick Dever, incidentally, Naga, the other British athlete in that, was in 13th position, and George Mills hitting the deck, and Hugo Hay did finish in a top 8 qualifying spot as well, which would add to the frustration potentially of George Mills, because the French athlete goes through. We'll see if there's a story on it. You know, is it worth a protest? They'll look at the replays. Countries are allowed to protest any decisions they're not happy with within a certain amount of time. At the end of an event, they have to pay money. But the British team will look at it, and as Alison said, it's racing 22 athletes in that first heat, Naga. It was a huge field, but everybody wants the clear line, as Alison said, and unfortunately Britain's George Mills hit the deck and got caught up in the traffic.
2 stupid questions coming your way.
Never stupid questions if you don't know the answer, Naga.
I don't know the answer. Repechage, there's no repechage here.
No
Easy.
repechage. It basically goes up to 1,500 metres and then anything above that. That's why they're giving first 8 in both. So
because it's usually first 2, isn't it? And then the best... fastest,
what they call non-automatic.
Nordas, I saw he had, like if you snore, you get those strips that you put on your nose.
Yeah.
And Nordas has got those strips. Is that allowed? Is that not considered extra equipment?
No, it's absolutely allowed. I think Paula Radcliffe made those famous way back in the early 2000s, and Nordas is about the only athlete. It basically just widens the top of the nostrils, and look, a lot of athletes find comfort in little things that matter. I mean, I don't know whether you saw the pictures of Keely Hodgkinson warming up for her final.
No.
Her sponsors gave her this innovative kind of recovery equipment. So she was jogging around in this. She almost looked like she'd come from space. She had this sort of ice vest on that actually has the ability to cool or heat the body, and then she walked into the warm-up in these kind of massive space boots, and apparently they're really good for recovery, these huge kind of you know if you've kind of you've gone over on your ankle, or you've got a stress fracture and they put you in a moon boot. That's what they look like. It was the most bizarre thing, but yeah, you see everything here.
Do you want to, before I go to the news, do you want to just set up this second heat for us of the 5,000?
Yeah, let's set it up, Naga, because Jakob Ingebrigtsen of Norway is back after missing a medal, as we know, in that men's 1,500 metres last night. He lines up with 21 other athletes, including Great Britain and Northern Ireland's Sam Atkin, and he'll be hoping for a clear run to get through to the men's 5,000 metre final and potentially win the Olympic gold in this event. He's won the world title twice over 5,000 metres, and he's just been introduced to the crowd holding up number 1 on his finger in the camera lens, Naga, so that's to come shortly.
Confident man. Catherine Mary, Alison Kirbishley, both thank you very much. We will speak after the news. It is 10:31. With the news is Bethan Holmes. Morning, Bethan.
Morning, Naga. Further riots are expected today as part of England and Northern Ireland have seen violent disorder over the past week. 6,000 public order-trained officers are being mobilised to respond. Sir Keir Starmer has promised communities they'll be kept safe and rioters will be dealt with swiftly. More than 1,000 British military personnel have been put on standby to help with the evacuation of British nationals from Lebanon. It follows the Foreign Office warning the situation in the Middle East could deteriorate rapidly. At the weekend, the government repeated calls for UK nationals to leave the country as tensions grew following the killing of Hamas's political leader in Iran. The water regulator Ofwat is to appoint an independent monitor to Thames Water to assess the company's progress towards turning around both its performance and its finances. Last month, Thames Water's credit rating was downgraded twice by agencies, breaching the terms of its licence. Ofwat has proposed a £104 million fine on the firm as a punishment for sewage spills. And US Vice President and Democratic presidential election nominee Kamala Harris has introduced her new running mate, Tim Walz, as part of her presidential campaign. Speaking at the rally in Philadelphia, he called Trump too selfish to serve the American people.
Welcome to the Tooney and Russo Show in Ibiza! I'm here with two of football's most famous friends, Alessia Russo and Ella Toon.
What do you mean I can't go on? This is what this holiday's been booked for. It's all about the big inflatable. You're telling me I can't go on? You're crushing my dream. I'm delirious. It's nice to come out and have a bit of a holiday, isn't it?
From BBC 5 Live, the Tooney and Russo Show with me, Vic Hope.
Watch on YouTube and listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sports at the Olympic Games
With Naga Munchetty.
on 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
10:33 is the time. Get to go to one of my favourite bits, the golf now. The first round of the women's individual stroke play is underway at Le Golf National. Listen to the cheers there. Women's world number one, Nelly Korda, wants to follow in the footsteps of fellow American Scotty Scheffler, of course, who won Olympic gold in the men's competition. Our golf correspondent, Ian Carter. Now, Ian is watching. Ian, you compared the men's game as one of the most exciting events in the calendar. And you and I had a little... Hello, by the way.
Hello.
Hello. You and I had a little text exchange because I was like, no, Ryder Cup, always. But you did say that the atmosphere surrounding this has been fantastic. And that's got to bleed into the women's competition now.
Very much so, and it's another sellout today at Le Golf National. The crowds have been there since 8 o'clock in the morning our time, 9 o'clock in the morning in Paris, where the crowds were out in force for Perrine Delacour's opening tee shot. And I really do think that the golf that we witnessed on Sunday, when Scotty Scheffler came through and won in such dramatic circumstances, that for me was the best golf tournament of the year, bar none. And considering how exciting the men's US Open was, the US PGA was, the Open Championship was, you know, I'm putting it right up there, and I'm not alone in those thoughts. And it was interesting to hear Rory McIlroy afterwards saying, you know, and he wasn't the arch Olympic skeptic initially. He is known to change his mind, it must be said.
It's allowed.
And he has changed his mind dramatically. And he was making the point that, you know, it's the Ryder Cup and it's the Olympics that for him are the biggest things now. And he was saying it's no coincidence that you're just playing for your country. You're playing for sporting glory, and there is no prize money there. And he used a very derogatory term to describe the way that men's professional golf is right now. Let's just call it a big mess with all that's going on with LIV and the hyperinflation in prize money. And it's a bit of a turn-off compared with this sort of very pure form of the sport. And that is the wave that the women are seeking to ride as they compete over the 4 days at Le Golf National now.
Should we go through some of the basics? How many golfers represent each country?
Well, it's a 60-player field. If you're in the top 15 in the world, you are eligible, but only four players from any one country can play. So it effectively distills down to a maximum of 4 if you're in the top 15 in the world. Otherwise, it's 2 from each country. The 2 highest ranked players from each country make up the field. So from Great Britain's point of view, we have Charlie Hull and Georgia Hall as the 2 highest ranked players. We don't have any more in the top 15 in the world. So, and I'm afraid to say Charlie Hull is off to a really disappointing start, a double bogey at the first. She's one of very many players who found the water off the first tee, water all the way down the left on that opening hole, and she also dropped a shot at the 6th. So she's at 3 over par, and it's not a good start for Nelly Korda either. She 3-putted the first to drop a shot there. She 3-putted the par 5 third, so couldn't take advantage of that, and has dropped a shot at the 6th as well. So the defending champion is in a share of 27th place at the moment at 2 over par.
Lots of good characters there. Georgia Hall, Charlie Hull, they're besties, aren't they? Best friends.
They are.
Off the course as well.
I was chatting to them yesterday.
Go on, you bet you had a laugh.
Well,
they're good fun, those
and
two.
I said to Charlie, you do have a great relationship with your caddy Adam Woodward. Do you think the caddies should get a medal as well? Because they don't. And she said 100%. And I pushed her on it, and she said, look, put it this way, if I'm on the podium, I'm not going to climb up onto that step without him. So that would be quite the spectacle come Saturday evening if Charlie were able to turn this around and get up there into the top 3. She's one of the great characters, and the other big talking point around her is that she was diagnosed with ADHD, and one of the coping mechanisms that she has is to smoke. She's actually someone who gave up vaping to smoke, which anyway. But of course all the Olympic venues are non-smoking. And she was asked about this in a news conference yesterday, and she said that it could be an issue for her in terms of coping with stress out there on the golf course. But that will, I know, stir many opinions one way and another. But it's one of the things that is part and parcel of her competing over these 4 days.
If we look at the US competitors, Nelly Korda, I mean, she's fantastic. I mean, for women's golf, for the game, just for anyone who wants to. If you want a swing to emulate, I'm sorry, it's hers. It's hers above all for me. And she won 5 tournaments in a row. She's had a really, really good year. And Lilia Vu, again, another US, Team USA player. They've been up there. They're going to be really hard to beat.
Well, you would think so, although with Nelly Korda, and it's really interesting watching her, she is nowhere near the player that she was in the early part of the season. As you say, she won 5 tournaments in a row, including the first major, the Chevron Championship. In her next outing, she finished 7th, and in the outing after that, she won again. So 6 wins in 7 tournaments. That's an unheard of level of consistency. But since then, she missed the cut at the US Open. She missed the cut at the LPGA Classic. She missed the cut in the next major, the PGA. She only finished 26th at the Evian Championship. She missed out on playing at the Centurion Club in the Aramco event because she was bitten by a dog. And she looks really out of sorts in these opening holes. The swing doesn't have its usual elegance. There was an inspired headline writer a couple of years ago who coined her Nelly the Elegant because of the way that she swings. I just watched her latest tee shot on the 6th, and she tugged it left, and it just looked so out of sync compared with her usual very well-oiled machine. So she's battling a few things in a game at the moment, which is significant at this stage of the season, with the Solheim Cup coming up in September as well. So it's going to be fascinating to see whether she can turn this around. And as I say, off to a disappointing start in this defence of her Olympic crown.
I'm going to be talking to you throughout my 3 hours. I'm so pleased, Ian. I will come back to you and find out how everyone's doing. And hopefully very soon everyone would have teed off as well. Ian Carter there at the golf, at Le Golf National. I'm going to take you back to the athletics track now. I'll talk about the 5,000 metre heat. It's the second heat that's going on in a moment. Just want to bring you up to date, though, with the high jump. The defending Olympic champion, Qatar's Mutaz Essa Barshim, we've just seen is injured. He was holding on to his leg, maybe around the thigh area. I don't want to kind of be someone to predict exactly what's happened, but that will be very concerning, of course, as that is underway. We'll keep you up to date with that in just a moment. So the 5,000 metres heat is underway right now. 4 laps to go, so we'll get some commentary from Alison Kirbishley and Catherine Merry very shortly. I do want to tell you, though, that we've had the heats for the women's 100 metres hurdles with Cindy Sember, the sole British representative. Now, Cindy reached all 3 major finals in 2022, so obviously planning to do the same here in Paris. She finished second in her heat behind reigning Olympic champion Jasmine Camacho Quinn from Puerto Rico. And Cindy has been talking to Sarah Mulkerrins after the race.
Well, Cindy, through to the semi-finals. How did that feel out there?
You know, it felt pretty good. I think I have a lot more in the tank, but I had to get the jitters out, the nerves out, and I'm ready to bring something special in the semi-final.
So how has the build-up the last few days been then?
You know, it's been really hard with us being at the end of the championships, but I'm just blessed to be here, and I'm happy that I'm healthy, so I'm very excited, and I know there's a lot in store.
What do you feel you can achieve?
Honestly, I think I'm ready for a medal. I definitely feel very capable. Just need to put some parts of my races together, but through God's grace, I'll be all right.
We'll see you in the semi-final.
Thank you so much.
So the women's 100-metre hurdles semi-finals, that's on Friday around 11 o'clock our time. So you'll be in the very capable hands of Adrian Charles when that is underway. Let's go over to Catherine Merry and Alison Kirbishley. Hello. Hi. How many laps have we got left of this heat?
You've got about 3 laps to go in the second heat, and there's nothing really going on, Naga, to be honest. Jakob Ingebrigtsen was at the back, but now he's moved into 5th, so everything's going fine on the track at the moment.
Can we step away then to the high jump briefly?
Yes, we can, because on the track it's looking good. Sam Aitken's in the mix as well in this heat, just for the record. But in the field, from one world champion to another, Mutaz Esabar Shim, as you said, is still lying in the sunshine, Naga, on the outside line of the high jump area. The joint gold medalist in Tokyo 3 years ago with his good friend Gianmarco Tamberi. He was taking his first attempt in high jump qualifying at 2 metres and 27 and pulled up on his run up into the bar. He grabbed his calf. Our initial thoughts were, oh God, please don't let that be an Achilles tendon injury. But he collapsed on the track. It looks like cramp. And I say that because his good friend Gianmarco Tamberi, who's not having a great competition because of illness and has failed at 2:27, ran straight across to help him. And he's been stretching it out for him. So he's, and literally just as I'm speaking to you, Naga, Mutta Esabar Shim, the Qatar gold medalist, is back on his feet and is shaking his legs out. So we will see what the next move is. It's just frustration. Clapped his hands together, because as anybody of our listeners know, cramp for an athlete is a good scenario, not a tear or a pull, but it lingers, doesn't it? Cramp lingers in your body when you get it. So, but he's back up on his feet, and the bell's going to go, Naga, in the men's 5,000 metres final heat.
You take over.
Jakob Ingebrigtsen has swung to the front. The top 8 qualify for the 5,000 metre final on Saturday. And the Norwegian, so disappointed to miss the podium in the 5,000 metres last night, is leading this second heat. Down the back straight in the sunshine. There's a breakaway of about 12 athletes. Sam Atkin of Great Britain and Northern Ireland has gone backwards and is not going to be in contention to qualify for the 5,000 metre Olympic final. But on the top bend, looking over his shoulder, nice and easy, Jakob Ingebrigtsen is going to qualify for the men's 5,000 metre final, and he just passes Mutaz Esabar Shim, who is jogging around, which is a good sign. It's another absolute piece of carnage though, Naga, in the home straight as athletes try and get their line and in a top 8 position, but the battle goes on behind Jakob Ingebrigtsen because he wins the second heat very comfortably indeed. Let's put it this way, 13:51 for Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Naga, was the winning time. His lifetime best is 12 minutes 48. So let's just say it was a 1 minute to spare walk in the park. And Mutta Esabar Shim is just walking back to off the track, Naga. He's walking, he's jogging around, and I'll keep you updated on his progress in the high jump qualifying.
Interesting. I don't know who wants to answer this question. I'm sure I had a conversation, it might have been this week, it might have been last week, about how you run a race and whether you think, you know, when it's a heat, you run the race you've planned or you run the race against the other athletes in terms of time, because I'm just thinking about that time being a minute slower than his did you say record or personal best?
Yeah, I mean, when you get to his best, but I think when you get to the distance events, what you're trying to do is conserve as much energy as possible, so not run anywhere close, and you don't need to. You tend to find particularly in the semi-finals and the sprints, 100, 200, 400, you're having to get close to your personal bests, and those that are blessed, like Julian Alfred and the medalists, can often what we call shut down. We saw Matt Hudson-Smith do it in the semi-final of the 400 metres last night. He ran hard for 350 metres, and then when he was sure of qualification, he kind of shut down and just coasted in. You just want to reserve as much energy, get through the rounds without expending much energy, just so that you're as fresh as you possibly can be coming into the final. And with these distance races, the trouble is they're running them so slow in the early stages that it has to be a last lap burn up, because the whole field are there. And when you've got 20 men all starting to get quicker and quicker, their running stride is about 1.5 meters, can be 2 meters for the really tall guys. You try and put 20 men all doing that in a very condensed space, all trying to get quicker. Their cadence, the legs, the turnover is getting quicker and quicker. There's more chance, absolutely more chance of getting legs tangled, and that's just racing. So I don't understand why many of these guys who are not like Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who can control a race, who can change pace so easily, I don't understand why they don't make a move earlier and stop leaving it to last lap burn-ups, because Noor of America was the poor guy. Mohamed Noor was the guy that hit the deck in that last heat, and obviously it was George Mills in the one before that. But I'm just going to go back. We've just had an update with Barshim.
Yeah, Muta Essa Barshim has gone over 2:27 at the second time of asking, Naga, and he's holding his number. He's ripped his number off his chest and he's holding it up to the crowd.
That'll be enough, Kath, I reckon. I think it's not automatic qualifying. It's not 2:29, but I wonder whether that second clearance at 2:27 is enough, which means that he might not need to attempt 2:29. He can then go and get medical on that calf.
I just saw Tamberi fail second attempt at 2:27, so we'll keep an eye on all of that and how that's going. Alison, Catherine, thank you. We'll speak later, no doubt.
Thank you.
It's very exciting there. I want to step away from the Olympics just for the last part of this hour, because obviously we need to keep you up to date with what's happening in the news, and news that's dominated the UK, around the UK for the past week. Nikki was having a really good conversation between 9 and 10 about this, and thank you all for your views as well and your contributions to that conversation. I'm of course talking about the violent clashes that followed the fatal stabbing of 3 children at a dance group in Southport last Monday. There are inquests into the deaths of 6-year-old BB King, Alice da Silva Aguiar, who was 9, and 7-year-old Elsie Stanscombe. These inquests opened and adjourned this morning at Bootle Town Hall. The senior coroner, Julie Goulding, said it was impossible to adequately articulate the devastating lifelong effects of the truly tragic events. Now, around the country, police are preparing for the possibility of more riots today. There are reports that at least 30 could be held. Now, let's talk to Security and Home Affairs journalist Lizzie Dearden. Lizzie, good to talk to you again.
Good morning.
Morning. OK, so the reports now, at least 30, I don't even know what to call these. Riots, I mean, they develop into riots, they're pitched as protests. How do we know these are going to happen?
Well, the short answer is that we don't. And actually, a lot of the work police are trying to do at the moment is assessing what's credible or not, in terms of working out whether some of the, let's just say events that have been called on for this evening are actually things that people are going to attend, or are things that have been thrown on the internet by far-right extremists. In this case, it was actually a group of neo-Nazis who compiled a list of locations they linked to asylum and immigration, and lawyers who help asylum seekers. And what the police are trying to do is working out if anyone will actually be turning up to those. And if so, whether the people turning up will be the far-right extremists who called it on, or whether there will actually be kind of local people trying to defend these places or counter protesters. And it's made it an extremely chaotic space where the prospect of disorder is high. And the police are expecting a lot of work on their hands this evening before things may hopefully calm down later in the week.
We had a conversation not so long ago about all of this being seen on social media. Interesting that we've seen court appearances now, haven't we? And we've seen people being charged. What do we know in terms of the latest arrests and charges?
The latest figures we've got are over 400 arrests across the UK and more than 100 charges. Those charges are starting to hit court now, so we're getting some more detail. Most of them are relatively simple in the sense that they are people who were caught for kind of physically rioting at the scene of some of these disturbances, charges like criminal damage, assaulting police officers. The charges that look like they'll be taking a bit more time are the ones relating to some of this online activity and incitement. What the police have done is brought in specialist officers from regional organised crime units to do some of this more complex investigation where they are going up the food chain to try and look at some of the people who have been organising and inciting these events rather than merely the people who ended up turning up on the ground. So there's now this kind of two-pronged approach where we're expecting to see more charges coming through, but some of them may take weeks, if not months, because of the very complex nature of this online activity.
You know, how we describe what's been going on is going to be intensely scrutinised. It already has been. Whether it's the press describing it, whether it's the police describing it, whether it's politicians describing it, former police members, there's a debate, isn't there, as to what's terrorism and what's criminal activity. Obviously, terrorism is a criminal activity, but whether or not this can be classed as terrorism.
Yeah, I understand why that debate's happening. I think at this point, it's actually a lot more simple from the police perspective than it is for the public. Terrorism has a very strictly defined legal definition in this country, which is the one that all, criminal justice agencies operate under, which it is basically, to cut it short, that it has to be the use or threat of violence or serious damage to property for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial or ideological cause. And if that's slightly misquoted, sorry, that was off the top of my head, but that's basically it. And so there are questions around, what's hate crime and what's terrorism. For instance, if someone vandalizes a mosque, hypothetically, is that to advance a political cause or is it a hate crime? And that's a lot of the questions that will end up sitting on the Crown Prosecution Service's desk. And at the end of the day, what they will probably be doing is trying to find the charge that best fits the crime, the one that has the highest likelihood of being convicted and the one that gets the highest sentence. So rather than a kind of overall approach of saying, we are now classifying these events as terrorism, what they'll be doing on the criminal justice side is very closely going on a case-by-case basis.
Always good to talk to you, Lizzie. Thanks very much for that. That's Lizzie Dearden, Security and Home Affairs journalist. Thanks, Lizzie. It's coming up to 5 to 11. You may have seen the Vice President and Democratic candidates for November's presidential election, Kamala Harris. She has chosen the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, to be her running mate. So you may have seen them out and about. Walz has said it's an honour of a lifetime, and he's been talking at a rally in Philadelphia yesterday and naturally attacking his Republican opponent.
Donald Trump sees the world a little differently than us. First of all, he doesn't know the first thing about service. He doesn't have time for it because he's too busy serving himself. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
Dr. Gina Yanitel-Reinhardt is a professor of government at the University of Essex. Gina, Dr. Yanitel-Reinhardt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tim Walz, he's come out fighting, hasn't he? Not surprising.
Not surprising at all. That's why he was chosen. He was chosen because he is relatable, because he is a good speaker, and because middle America and lots of swing voters can identify with him.
In terms of his selection, was there a surprise? I mean, personally, wasn't surprised that Kamala Harris was going to choose a white man to be her running mate.
Well, there's definitely no surprise there. He is someone who there are people in America who are going to be concerned about voting for a woman and voting for a person of color. Mm-hmm. And he was chosen without a doubt, in part for his visual image and his race and gender, because he represents someone that folks who are skeptical on those lines can identify with.
Yeah, I compared him. I was talking to someone yesterday, and we were trying to figure out. It was Monday, when we were, waiting to see who she'd pick. I compared him to the man in the Up film. Have you seen the cartoon film?
Yes.
The man with the balloons. That kind of. If you look at him straight away, it is a certain traditional image, isn't it? That will make many people feel more secure, perhaps.
Yes, it's going to comfort people, and it's going to make them feel secure, and it is going to galvanize them as well. So anybody who was thinking, I just won't vote, I'm usually a Democrat, or I'm usually left-leaning perhaps, but I'm just concerned, I don't know whether I can trust this woman, they're going to look at him and say, oh, wait a minute. I feel better now. He's like the grandfather that everybody jokes around with and has a good time with. And although Trump is quite a bit older, nobody thinks of him as a lovable grandfather.
No, I think that's a fair comment. Also, she could have chosen someone who was kind of, that kind of preppy, stylishly good-looking, kind of younger.
Right.
She could have gone that way, but maybe this just brings more stability. I don't know. I think comfort is the word, isn't it?
I think gravitas, perhaps, as well. And he is interesting in that he doesn't speak in a lofty way, and he can really drive home in a very accessible and relatable way the things that their agenda is pushing. So there's been a conversation for a long time about Trump and his reign or regime being a threat to democracy, becoming a dictator, tearing apart American political institutions. Those are very abstract concepts to a lot of people, and they're extreme. They're things that people don't want to believe and wouldn't really understand. He just says, look, they're kind of weird.
This weird word, this is being used a lot, and it kind of works, doesn't it?
It has worked. Now, it's not that anybody could have necessarily known it would, but if you remember, Hillary Clinton said, called a lot of Trump supporters a basket of deplorables. And the different way of saying that, right, is to say these guys are kind of weird. And it is something that swing voters and undecideds can say, yeah, that's it. They're just kind of weird. They're just too much. He really offsets the appeal of Vance and counters it well.
We will see how it all works out. Thank you very much, Gina. News next now with Richard Foster.
Thanks, Naga. Good morning. Police say thousands of officers are ready to respond after reports of more possible violence later. Last night, Sir Keir Starmer chaired his second emergency COBRA meeting to discuss the recent unrest. Lizzie Dearden is a security and home affairs journalist. She told Naga police are keen to target the organisers.
The charges that look like they'll be taking a bit more time are the ones relating to some of this online activity and incitement. What the police have done is brought in specialist officers from regional organised crime units to do some of this more complex investigation where they are going up the food chain to try and look at some of the people who have been organising and inciting these events.
The inquests have been opened into the deaths of the 3 girls stabbed to death in Southport last week. The coroner at Bootle Town Hall Walz said it was impossible to adequately articulate the devastating lifelong effects of the events on the families. Tim Walz has used his first appearance as Kamala Harris's presidential running mate to accuse Donald Trump of being too selfish to serve the United States. They both spoke at a rally in Philadelphia last night. Dina Titus served with Mr. Walz during his time in the House of Representatives.
I would say the reception was ecstatic. People are so excited. They're rejuvenated. They're ready to get out and work to elect this ticket. The place was packed. The excitement was palpable. They were shouting. They were cheering.
More than 1,000 UK military personnel are on standby to help evacuate British people from Lebanon. Hundreds of troops have been sent to Cyprus. The Foreign Office has repeated a warning for British citizens to leave Lebanon, where Israel killed a senior Hezbollah commander. The Israeli army has issued a new evacuation order for Palestinians in Gaza, this time for people in Bet Hanun in the north. It says it's in response to rockets fired from the area into Israel yesterday. The medicines watchdog NICE says tens of thousands of women who've gone through the menopause could benefit from a new bone-strengthening drug. Abaloparatide will be available on the NHS in England within 3 months. Dr Nikki Peel is a bones doctor.
Most of the people who will be suitable and offered abaloparatide will be a number of years post-menopause. The treatment has been approved by NICE for people who are at very high risk of osteoporotic fracture, and that generally will be women in their mid-60s and beyond.
And Halifax says lower mortgage costs and more interest rate cuts could lead to rising house prices for the rest of the year. The mortgage lender's prediction comes after property prices ticked up in July after being flat for the last few months.
If you're looking for laughs, lash! BBC iPlayer's got you covered.
Alright, what's secured? This is where the magic happens.
With over 3,000 episodes of comedy favourites.
They make for great entertainers.
Including The Office, Gavin and Stacey, Two Doors Down, and many more.
Oh, what is that? Whoa. Put my stapler inside the jelly again.
Bring on the laughs.
What are you laughing at?
Watch on BBC iPlayer.
The Olympic Games, Paris 2024.
With Naga Munchetty.
On BBC Audio 5 Live.
Hello. Welcome back to day 12 of the Olympic Games. Catherine Mary is watching in the heats for the men's 800 metres.
Yep, 6 heats in total, 3 Brits in action. Elliot Giles, Ben Patterson and Max Bergen line up shortly to try and make the semi-finals of the men's 800 metres.
Then there's Ian Carter, who's watching the opening round of the women's individual stroke play golf.
And it's a struggle for a couple of the big names. The defending champion Nelly Korda, 3 over par after 7 holes. Charlie Hull of Great Britain, 4 over par after 8. There are only 4 players under par, and they're led by the Norwegian Celine Borger, 3 under through 9.
And we got to watch an 11-year-old in action yesterday. Today we will witness a 51-year-old Brit, Andrew McDonald, in the men's park skateboarding.
I basically started skating these park competitions and had to relearn how to do a lot of the tricks that I knew to do. So it was some of the most frustrating and challenging skateboarding I've ever done.
We will bring you every Team GB medal live here on 5 Live. You can also follow events on the BBC Sport website and app, or watch on BBC One and the iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sports at the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
Okay, so golf. It's a temperamental, unpredictable game and probably the most frustrating in the world. But if you're a professional, you have a much better chance of being consistent. You would think, Ian Carter, who is at Le Golf National.
You would think, but it's not proving that way at the moment for certainly the two big names who've got their rounds established in Nelly Korda and Charlie Hull. Charlie Hull has really not looked very comfortable at all on the opening 8 holes, covering them in 4 over par. Nelly Korda 3 over par after 7. She's got a little tester to remain at 3 over as well. As I was saying earlier to you, Naga, she's not been in the best of form of late, Nelly Corder, but this is quite the surprise. But the other thing to say is that Le Golf National is proving a real test for the world's best players. As I was saying, only 4 players under par at the moment. Aditi Ashok, Paula Retu of South Africa, they're both at 1 under par. Mariaho Uribe of Colombia, 2 under after 2 holes. And Celine Borger from Norway, who must be on the radar for a Solheim Cup debut. She has covered the outward half in 3 under par, so she is the leader and looking very comfortable.
Names I haven't really heard of, apart from obviously Celine Borger, but and also worth saying that not everyone's out yet.
Yes, so still got Georgia Hall is getting herself ready to go for Great Britain. We just had a lovely moment, and there will be so much attention on her. Céline Boutier, the French #1, a major winner, and another of those impromptu renditions of the French national anthem as she was on the tee on the opening hole, split the fairway with her tee shot, so a massive opportunity for her. And she's playing with Lilia Vu, who you quite rightly highlighted. Lilia Vu's had all sorts of injury problems, but now back fully fit. She is going to be a real threat, you would imagine, over these 4 days. And those 2 players with Amy Yang are making their way down the first as we speak.
Question for you, Ian. So obviously you were there watching the men. Often when you go to a golf course, there are different sets of tees, and the men's used to be called the men's tees, now they're all just colours. Men usually tee off right off the back tips, as we call it, right at the back of the longest point of the course, making the hole the longest it could be. How does that compare to where the women are teeing off?
The course has been substantially shortened for the women, as you would expect, because you wouldn't want to see the women they don't hit the ball as far as the men, and you want to have as equal a test as possible of the golf game. So there's no sort of big shock in that at all. But one thing to say, that the first is playing pretty much its full length. They are using the same teeing ground as they did for the men, because there is such a lovely natural amphitheatre for the spectators to gather around that. It's very atmospheric. You can hear the applause there for Lydia Ko as she hits a lovely tee shot down the first. So they're teeing off from the front portion of that back teeing ground on the first, but they are using the more advanced tees for the rest of the course.
Do you think it makes a difference? Because obviously the Ryder Cup was held at Le Golf National in 2018. The Solheim hasn't been held there, has it?
No, it's not. No.
No. So do you think like the men, when they were playing, just a bit more familiar, or would there have been the usual practice rounds that would have been able to get in by the women?
Well, certainly the leading European men were very familiar with this golf course, because not only was it used for the Ryder Cup, and there were a number of the European team from that match in 2018, Tommy Fleetwood included, who were competing last week. But also, Le Golf National is the home of the French Open. Tommy Fleetwood, a former winner of that. Guido Migliozzi of Italy, a winner of the French Open, was in the field. And many of the Europeans will have played that golf course. The Americans, incidentally, none of the Americans that qualified for this Olympics were in the Ryder Cup team that lost in 2018. So it was new territory for them. It's a level playing field in a sense for the women, because this isn't a course that appears on their calendar.
I'm going to come back to you, Ian. I always have lots of questions, but I'm very excited. So good, I'm pleased. Ian Carter there, who's at Le Golf National watching the women in the first day of the individual stroke play, of course. Now, let's get back to the track. 2 British athletes have missed a chance to make it to the men's 5,000 metres final. Now, George Mills was one of those 4 athletes. Remember, we were talking about the falls, and he fell on the final lap of the heat, and he's been talking to Sarah Mulcairns after that race.
George, what happened?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I got stepped out on as I was about to kick in the home straight, and boom, French lad took me down.
You had some words with him afterwards?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Probably not allowed to say, but said
So, have you spoke to any of the officials yet?
I haven't seen anyone, but I'm pretty sure that BAE will be on it to put an appeal in, I hope. From my perspective, that was a perfect qualifier for me. Going through the first 2K in 6 minutes, I was like, all right, nobody in this field can run away from me at this pace. So I was just sitting, waiting, biding my time. Going to kick off the home straight, then bang, hit the deck. But yeah, what can you do?
And there was so many people in it. It was a real unusual race in that way, considering it had gone off so slow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have so much experience over the 5, but look, I was used the race now, so I've got from the 1500 and was prepared, and like I don't mind it when it's messy like that. I even managed to hurdle a fall coming into the bell, I think it was, or 800 to go. So once that happened, I was like, oh, thank God for that. I don't want to hit the deck here. And then, yeah, I just wanted to put my foot down on the home straight, got taken out.
Okay, well, appreciate you talking.
Thanks, guys. And yeah, if this is my last race here, I want to thank everyone at home for watching. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, that's a lovely note to finish on. Let's talk to Alison Kirbishley, Commonwealth silver medalist, 400 metres. Alison, he was, I can't say it on the radio, he was very, very knocked, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was angry. I mean, I've just ran up to the TV Tribune just to have a quick look at the replay of that, and I would disagree a little bit from what I saw. Well, I didn't think Hugo Hay did. What did he say? Push him out or trip him? Basically, you had Hugo Hay on the inside line, the curve, right on the rail. You had George Mills sitting right on his shoulder to shoulder. And they were both racing. Now, George was leaning in naturally, because as you come around a turn, your natural, your sort of natural instinct is to lean in, tilt. So Hugo Hay was quite right in holding his line. He had the line. He had that inside line. George Mills leaned in. Hugo Hay leaned out. And the two of them were just clashing arms, while their arms are pumping.
Yeah.
Now, there was never a point, and I've seen the slow-mo on the television, there was never a point where Hugo Hay absolutely walloped him and pushed him out. But that leaning in, leaning out just means that you kind of concertina, and George Mills' sort of projectile went off to the right-hand side, and in doing that, he tangled himself up and hit the deck. By hitting the deck, he also took out another two athletes. They're operating at high speed here as well. So one little push, it's racing. It is racing. He never once put himself in a better position to prevent that happening. That's what happens when it's a slow race. George knows that. George has been in many, many tussles before. So I think, his reaction to run straight up to Hugo Hay and almost as if he was on a football pitch, be arguing with him. We don't see that in athletics, and we're not used to seeing it, so that doesn't look great. And yes, look, without doubt, it hasn't been official on our CIS, our computer information system yet, which means that the British team have put a protest in. But I'd be very, very surprised if that does get overturned, because honestly, Hugo Hay, the French guy, I don't think did anything wrong. He was holding his line.
It's interesting because this is just another way we learn, and how, and I will be watching much more closely now. So the one closest to the inside, them tilting a bit, or trying to stay more upright to hold their line.
You're
exactly.
allowed to hold your line. It's exactly the same in cycling. If you have got the racing line, and as long as if Hugo Hay was slowing, I get it, but George didn't have a right to be able to move in on Hugo Hay, not while he was level with him, which he was coming into that, certainly on the replay I've seen anyway. So we look to see what happens.
There was another
I think we've got news now.
Go on.
We've got news. I found out he's been advanced to the final.
Wow.
So that changes things, doesn't it, Alison?
So have they disqualified Hugo Hay? Because if they've disqualified Hugo Hay, I understand why he's been advanced.
Well,
but
we'll fight. Yeah,
he is one lucky guy.
Yeah, the exact wording from somebody I know said he's been advanced to the final. It happened very quickly, so it looks like a track ref decision.
Do you know what? I'm going to leave you both, Catherine Merring, Alison Kirbishley, have a look at that decision that's just been made, digest it, because there was another Team GB athlete, Patrick Dever, who missed the chance to make it to the men's 5,000 metres final. We just had that rather interesting decision regarding George Mills's race, so they'll digest that. But let's talk about Patrick Dever, who finished outside the top 8. He was 13th, and he's also been talking to Sarah Mulkerrins.
Patrick, that was a real messy race. How was it within it?
Yeah, it was probably as bad as it looked. I tried to stay in the first few spots for the first portion of the race, and my coach told me when the move comes to try and be ready for it, and it just happened so fast. I should have reacted quicker, but it was like I kind of got swamped, and then from there it was just pretty messy.
Because it started so slow. Was there any inclination that anybody was going to try and take it on to avoid that congestion at the end?
I definitely considered it, but I've done it a couple of times earlier this season, and it's not really paid off for me. So I tried to try something new here, and it was going as well as it could have done into that last lap. But I just kind of struggled with those guys for turnover. So a bit disappointed.
Oh, they work so hard. But Patrick Dever, thank you for representing Team GB. I know you're disappointed, but everyone you're an Olympian regardless. So that is just powerful stuff. So he was talking to Sarah Mulkerrins there. Let's go back to Catherine Merry and Alison Kirbishley, because we've had this decision made, Catherine and Alison. Catherine, was it you jumped in with that? Regarding George Mills. So George Mills was in the heat of the 5,000 metres, and he fell. And there was a strongly worded discussion after, because he accused Hugo Hay of France of pushing him basically out of his line. What has happened since?
Well, it looks like the track referee has made the decision when looking at the footage that he had a case, and therefore George Mills, who did fall in the last 60 metres of that race when everyone was trying to get the inside line, has been advanced to the final. But he's not the only one, Naga, is he? Alison's looking at our computer system that we get the instant information from, Naga, to get the most up-to-date situation. George Mills of Great Britain and Northern Ireland has been advanced, but so have some of the other athletes that were also involved in incidents. And you can do that in middle distance and long distance running, Naga, more easily, of course, because you can spread them across the track, and it's not just 8 lanes, say, in a sprint event. But it's a developing story, but George and others are through, Alison.
Because four fell, didn't they?
Yeah.
At least 4.
Yeah, so we had one, Lubalu fell in with 1 lap to go. And George Mills hurdled him. They've advanced him, but then also George Mills, and it looks like George Mills and the Spaniard and Mike Foppen, who were the other 2 athletes that fell when George fell. He took out poor Mike Foppen, who was right behind him. So that's going to be 20 men. That's going to be 20 men, I think. Field. Oh, and Mo Ahmed. Oh my! I think that's going to be 20 men in the final, which is it's madness. But hey, this is the Olympic Games.
This is the Olympics, and we love these stories. Right? Okay. Take your head out of the 500. Let's jump to the 800, if you don't mind. The heats of the men's 800 metres underway. We have now Elliot Giles, a late call-up. Do you want to explain this? They're just lining up and waving to the crowd as they're being announced.
Yeah, Elliot Giles will start in lane number 9 in heat number 4 of the men's 800 metres. And basically, Elliot Giles, the second fastest man ever in the world indoors over 800 metres, wasn't initially picked in the British team for Tokyo here. The third spot went to 1500 metre former world champion Jake Whiteman, but Jake Whiteman got injured just before these games, and therefore Elliot Giles has been drafted in as a replacement for Jake Whiteman. He was already named as a reserve on the World Athletics entry list, so he now lines up and walks towards the line in this 4th heat of the men's 800 metres. So the gun goes, so not much time for Elliot Giles to think about this Olympic Games. He's very, very experienced, the 30-year-old, but he was on a camping holiday with his family. He's arrived late into the village, and he's got to finish in the first 3 to get directly to the semi-finals on Friday morning. There's been some good running so far in these 800-metre heats, no major shocks. They've been coming in the other events so far here this morning in the sunshine. And 200 metres into this heat, Alison Kirbishley, Elliot Giles sits in 2nd place behind Peter Sick of Belgium. And as I say, what a call-up, lastminute.com for Elliot Giles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you'd have told him 2 weeks ago and showed him this start list, he wouldn't have believed you at all. Well, here he is, lining up in his 3rd Olympic Games, and he's going to make it count, isn't he? He really is, and he's got a tough first round. He's got Sajati, of Algeria, the world lead, third quickest ever in the world, and he's way down the field at the moment, down in 6th place. It's been led by Sisk of Belgium with Elliot Giles on his shoulder, Peter Bol there for Australia. This is going to wind up now. Peter Bol now pushing the pace down the front. Elliot Giles currently in 3rd place.
Elliot Giles has made a move. Oh, he's done a little cheeky inside line, Cole Hocker style last night in the men's 1500 metres. And Elliot Giles with 200 metres to go leads this 4th heat. Bol, the Australian, coming on the Britain's shoulder. This is, as Alison said, a really quick heat. Has Elliot Giles shot his load though too early because he's swinging into the home straight? It's only the first 3 to qualify. Sadachi of Algeria has taken control of this heat, looking to his left and his right. But Elliot Giles on his shoulder, nicely done. A salute from the world leader Sadachi, 1:45.83. But well done, Elliot Giles.
Beautiful, beautiful Elliot Giles. That is how you run an 800 metres. And I honestly think the best thing for him, he's got no pressure. He only found out last week that he was coming. He hasn't done any last minute prep. He hasn't done any last minute 800 metre sessions. He's been working hard, thinking that he was just going to do some races at the end of the Diamond League circuit. So he's come here and he's just qualified for the semi-final in a way that was really, really smooth.
It was good, Naga. I have to tell you, it was really, really good. He's not got time to overthink this one. And Elliot Giles, camping equipment packed away, fiancé and kids in another part of the world, and he ripped that one up here in Paris. That was very impressive from the Birchfield Harrier and his teammate, of course, Matt Hudson-Smith, the fellow Birmingham Birchfield Harrier, goes in the 400 metres final tonight. Very, very impressive indeed. Nicely done there, Naga, by our first British athlete.
Do we get a bloopers tape at the end of the Olympics?
Oh no, what did we say?
No, what did we say?
I don't know. My team, Jason and we're not sure I'm allowed to say. It was very funny. My filthy mind enjoyed your commentary.
God, if it was me, I apologise.
No, you didn't swear, you didn't do anything. It was a turn of phrase that if you are of a certain potty mind, you will giggle, and I was just giggling, and I'm obviously delighted.
We'll leave you to that. We'll leave you to your potty mind.
I will get Craig and Jason, who are in charge this then, to tell you what you said, because it was very, very funny. But brilliant for Elliot Giles. Jake Whiteman, I imagine, is watching thinking maybe that could have been me.
Yeah, he will be. It's really disappointing for Jake. And Jake Whiteman, of course, was the 1500 metres world champion in Eugene in 2022, has battled with so many injuries, Naga, that he wasn't in a position to come in the 1500 metres because of the injury. Dropped down to the 800 metre distance at the trials, which is what he wanted to do. Had to withdraw from the UK Championships because of another injury, but was still picked in the British team because of his experience. The British selectors had a really tough battle deciding between Elliot Giles and Jake Whiteman because they're two of the best in the world. And then, unfortunately, Jake Whiteman had to pull out with an injury. But, as mentioned, Elliot Giles is already on the reserve list and the World Athletics entry list, which is why he could be brought in last minute. And so far, so good for Elliot Giles. But, yeah, Jake Whiteman has been really unlucky with injuries in the last couple of years.
Let me just quickly wrap up what's been going on in the Olympics on day 12. So, we've got Team GB will have two athletes in the men's 3 metres springboard diving final. Jack Law, Jordan Holden both came through their semi-final pretty comfortably this morning. Law finished 3rd best, Holden in 5th place, and that final is tomorrow. At the boulder climbing, GB's Toby Roberts and Hamish MacArthur are into Friday's final. Tony Roberts qualified in 2nd place. And Spain's won gold in the marathon race walk mixed relay. I'm going to have to look that one up. The silver went to Ecuador, with Australia finishing in the bronze medal position. Let's go back to Catherine Merry and Alison Kirbishley. OK, so we've got another heat, haven't we? 800 metres. What is this, heat 5?
Oh, you're spot on, Naga. Look at you. You are bang on. You are all over this. And
I'm listening carefully.
Oh.
Let that be a note.
I love it. I love it. We have heat number 5 of the men's 800 metres, and British interest again. Ben Patterson, Basingstoke athlete, lines up in lane number 2. He's the world bronze medalist from last year's championships. The 22-year-old British champion lines up in lane number 2. Now the second fastest Briton of all time, behind Lord Sebastian Coe, a former Olympic champion, of course, himself. It's a tough heat, though, just as Elliot Giles had to battle and make his way through. And he's standing in the shaded part of the track here, the beautiful laid purple track here at the Stade de France. It took 10 weeks to lay after the Rugby World Cup last year, and Ben Patterson being asked to stand in his lane behind the line, and he's saying to the official, well, I'd like to stand in the shaded part if you don't mind, and not come back into the sun. Bit of competition though in this one. There's some athletes that have run under that magical 144, 143, 142 barrier. Kamala of Kenya will be a threat in this one in lane number 5. But a reminder, first 3 go forward to the semi-finals tomorrow, and the cameraman Alison walking down the athletes that are in the shade, and Ben Patterson now has had to go back. He's been told he has to stand behind his line and go back in the sunshine.
Yeah, he's the paler of the Brits, I'll put it that way, and he doesn't like the sun, does our Ben, bless him. And it is beating down. It's a pretty hot day today, and I feel for the guys that are in racing the latter part of the week, because you've sat around, you've seen everyone compete. The Olympics has been on the go now for 12 days. You've seen everyone come back in the village, people finishing their competitions, and you're just chomping at the bit to get going. Well, Ben, it's your time now. It was a medal for him in the World Championships last year. At the age of 21, he took the bronze medal, and this year he's just got quicker. He's replaced Steve Cram on the all-time list behind Seb Coe now, and he's getting closer and closer to that 142 second barrier. So today he doesn't need to do that, he just needs to get into the top 2. Sorry, 3.
The gun goes then. Ben Patterson in the dark blue Team GB strip, as all athletes have been proudly representing throughout this Paris Olympic Games, goes down the back straight, as Alison said. Just the top 3 will go forward to the semi-finals, and Ben Patterson is a real hope here at these Paris Olympics for the British team, in an event that's given us so much success over previous Olympic Games. At the 200-metre point, Patterson sits in 4th position, takes a look over both his left and his right shoulder, Alison, making sure he's getting himself in a good position, because once again we're pretty congested as we come into the home straight.
Yeah, much like his countrywoman, Keely Hodgkinson, this young 22-year-old has a great racing brain. He puts himself in great positions. He's running steady in the pack at the moment. He's back there in 5th place. He'll hear the bell, 53 seconds at the bell, being led, as you can tell, by the Frenchman's up there, Benjamin Robert. He's wanting to qualify. He's just on the inside curve. We've got Duplessis of South Africa, Kinyamal from Kenya, but Ben Patterson now 5th. He's going to have to make his move. He's going to get in the top 3.
Down the back straight, Kinyamal of Kenya has gone for this one with 200 metres to go. Patterson still in 5th place. The Frimley-born athlete needs to move up a couple of places here to get himself into the semi-finals. They're swinging round. The Kenyan is swinging his arms. He's throwing his head back. Ben Patterson's going wide into the outside of lane number 2. I am backing Ben Patterson here with his speed. He's coming through. Nicely done. Oh, beautiful from Ben Patterson. He's going to win this heat. Look at him go. Wonderful. 1:45.56. The finishing speed of Ben Patterson, Naga, is so good. He just went past the whole field and qualifies automatically in 1:45.56.
Now that's how you do a first round. Ben Patterson, he is all beyond his years. He really runs so smart, and he backed himself going down the back straight. Yes, I'm in 5th. He just knew he had a turner's pace. He went wide, and I thought that he was just going to tip the Frenchman out. Well, no, he didn't. He went right to the front of the field, swept by Wycliffe Kinyamal from Kenya and Duplessis of South Africa to head that first round, 1:45.56. Great running, Ben Patterson.
Yeah, he didn't need to go to 1st position. He could have just taken it easy in 3rd, which makes me think, well, 2 things really. One, I know nothing, because I was watching thinking, what do you mean you're leaving it this late to go wide? You're giving yourself more time, more space to run. This is madness. And then he's obviously just powered into first position when he didn't need to. So he must have a lot in his legs. Maybe that's why. He's feeling good.
Yeah, he was just flowing. To us, that looks like he's sprinting, but what he's doing is just so even-paced. So when all the other athletes are just starting to tire up and slow, he's just coming through so comfortably. He didn't need to do anything, and he's just he really is running on confidence.
He's looking good. Catherine, Alison, I'll come back to you shortly. Thanks very much for that. Great Britain's Elliot Giles, you heard, finished second in his 800-metre heat. He's through to the semi-finals. He's been talking to Sarah Mulkerrins.
Well, Elliot, it's been quite a whirlwind few weeks, I think, for you, and now through to the semi-final.
Damn, did you see that? I mean, 5 days ago, I was in a tent in the Swiss mountains on a training camp with my family, in a tent, a damn tent in the Swiss mountains, and now I'm here at the Olympics. I played it smart. I stayed in shape while I was away. And we do what you do. I mean, it's running. I love doing it. That's why I stayed ready. Focused already for the semi-finals. That's Elliot Giles talking to Sarah Mulkerrins. Right, it is 11:31. We need to keep you updated with the news, and that's the job of Beth Ann Holmes this morning. Hi, Beth Ann.
Hi, Naga. Police say thousands of officers are ready to respond after reports of more possible violence later. It's thought around 30 gatherings have been planned for today. Sir Keir Starmer has promised rioters will be dealt with swiftly. The inquests have been opened into the deaths of the 3 young girls stabbed to death in Southport last week. The coroner at Bootle Town Hall says it's impossible to articulate the devastating lifelong effects of the events on the families. It's been adjourned to allow criminal proceedings to continue. More than 1,000 UK military personnel are on standby to help evacuate British nationals from Lebanon. Hundreds of troops have been sent to Cyprus. Tensions in the Middle East have grown following the killing of a senior Hezbollah commander and the political leader of Hamas in Iran last week. And Tim Walz has used his first appearance as Kamala Harris's presidential running mate to accuse Donald Trump of being too selfish to serve the United States. The pair campaigned at their first rally together in Philadelphia last night.
5 Live Breakfast
With Rachel Burden and Rick Edwards.
Delighted to say that Josh Kerr joins us now morning.
One of the coolest parts of the experience for me, I was able to be voted as team captain for athletics.
When you do go to the party at the end with the other athletes, will you be wearing the glasses?
The lights are too bright, I guess, in the Stade de France.
We can talk to Sky Brown. Actually getting that medal, being able to be on the podium, it's definitely crazy.
5 Live Breakfast.
Listen weekdays from 6 on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sports and the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
Right then, it is 11:33. We're keeping you up to date because it's the first day of the women's individual stroke play at Le Golf National. Ian Carter is keeping a very close eye on what's going on. Now, Ian, hiya.
Hello, Naga.
Hello. Georgia Hall, out on the course. Do you know what I did this morning, or yesterday morning? I keep all these little souvenirs that I get if ever I meet someone famous. And she signed a hat for me saying, keep playing well. She was so delightful. It was after she won the Open in 2018. So she's one of my favourites.
Well, and I hope that inspires. Well, I know it inspires some excellent golf from you. So
occasionally,
that's very good to hear. Georgia Hall underway. Lovely tee shot on the first. Not one of those who got sucked into the water down the left-hand side. She's just on the green at the moment. Hopefully I'll get an idea of exactly where she is in just a second to let you know it goes from bad to worse for her compatriot Charlie Hull. She is now 6 over par through 10 holes. Better news of Nelly Korda, first birdie for the world number 1 and defending champion. It's come at the par 5 9th, and now I am watching Georgia Hall on the first green, and she's putting for a birdie here from around about 30 feet. It's really strange because of the different sponsorship scenario as far as the Olympics is concerned. She's not wearing a cap or a visor, so she looks a little unfamiliar as she knocks that one up to around about 2.5 feet. So it should be a par for Georgia Hall. She's playing with her Solheim Cup teammate, Leona Maguire from Ireland, and Maguire in the process of dropping a shot at the first. This opening hole playing very, very tough today. So she will go to 1 over par. Looks like Georgia Hall will remain at level par, and the leader remains from Norway, Celine Borger, 3 under par now through 11 holes.
Ian, thanks for that. I'll be back with you. Speak to you soon. So let's get back to the athletics track with the Stade de France. Team GB's Max Bergin is about to go in Heat 6. They've headed off. Catherine Merry and Alison Kirbishley are there.
Yeah, Max Bergin moving nicely, Naga, around the first bend here. This is the final heat number 6 of the men's 800 metres. Bergin might not even be aware that his teammates Elliot Giles and Ben Patterson have qualified for the semi-finals. Athletes, of course, under the bows here of the Stade de France, going through the system before they step onto track. But at the 200 metre point, the British athlete in third place in this final heat. A reminder, the first 3 do go through to the semi-final tomorrow. Max Bergin, 22 years old, the world's third fastest 800 metre runner last year, and the 5th fastest Brit of all time. Alison sits on the inside line in 4th place as we go through the bell.
Yeah, and I guess unusually he's actually sitting in the pack. We're so used to seeing Max Bergin lead out races. Well, today he's letting the others do the work. Bryce Hoppel, the American champion, the world indoor champion this year in Glasgow, is leading the field. He's got a great racing brain, Bryce. He heads them going down the back straight with the Algerian sitting on his shoulder. Max is going to have to make a move now, Kath, to get into that top 3.
Well, he has. He's running this differently, Max Bergin, which means he's now caught in traffic and has got a bit of negotiation to do. Oh, he's left, he's right, he's trying to find a way. The British athlete sits in 6th place. He has wonderful finishing speed, does Max Bergin, and he's going to have to use it here. And just like Ben Patterson, the British athlete Max Bergin swings into lane number 3, but he's got to dig deep. He's got himself into an automatic qualifying position. He's been chased by the French athlete who's going to finish in 4th, because Max Bergin, wow, afterburners flicked on massively there. He finishes in 3rd place. He therefore becomes the 3rd Brit, along with Elliot Giles and Ben Patterson, to make the semi-finals. Wow. He ran it, Alison, just like Ben Patterson. He negotiated some traffic and relied on his wonderful finishing speed. And you can do that in the heats. You're not going to get away with that in the semi-finals.
No, you're absolutely not. But hey, it doesn't matter. He's through to the semi-final, and he raises his arms aloft to this fantastic group of British fans who are waving the flags at him. And, with the disappointment of Tokyo, when he did get selected and then he had to withdraw due to hamstring and groin injuries then, he was only 19. To come here now after so little racing. When I say so little, Naga, his first race of the season was the British Championships, the Olympic trials, and he came here and he qualified by finishing 2nd at the British Championships. He is such a talent, but unfortunately he's had so many injuries that we just don't get to see him race that often. But he's now into the semi-final.
By Team GB, I'm enjoying this. I didn't think he made me more nervous than Ben Patterson did. I'll be honest.
And me as well, Naga, because he was negotiating down that back straight.
Yes, trying to get out of the
It was unbelievable, because as Alison said, Max Bergin normally runs one way, and that's like he takes it out from the front and he leaves nothing out on the track. He sat in on this one and suddenly thought, oh my God, this isn't a normal position that I'm in, and he went left, he went right, but he was so good, and he is one of the as I mentioned, one of the best athletes we've ever had. And he was very, very mature there. But yeah, he left it late like Ben Patterson, and luckily had enough left in the tank. But 3 Brits through automatically to the semi-finals. We don't need no repechage for our boys here today.
I think this is what 800, a lot of people that maybe don't follow the sports regularly will just see 800 and 1500 and just see lots of men running together. It must be the same sort of race, the same tactic. 800, you don't have time to make many decisions because they are moving at such pace. 1500 is a bit more like a game of chess, a speedy game of chess where you can cover moves because you've got 3.5 minutes of racing. Here, 1 minute 40 of racing. If you make the wrong decision, your whole race, your whole championships is over. He didn't panic there, and as Kath said, it's unusual to see him stuck in the middle of the pack. He usually just likes to lead it out and just hope for the best. I think the problem, because of his injuries, he hasn't had the ability to get onto the circuit and really sort of build his racecraft, whereas Ben Patterson, on the other hand, of the same age, 22 years old, is so astute when it comes to tactics. He puts himself in the right position. But 3 men through to the semi-final. This is fantastic.
Shall we hear from Ben? He's been talking to Sarah Mulcurrens.
Ben, I saw you looking up at the screen at your finish. What were you making of it?
I was just seeing how I was moving. I feel like it looked like I left it a lot later than I thought I did in my head, but the whole last 100 I thought, yeah, this is comfy. I wasn't in my top gear, so yeah, it felt really good.
And you trust that finish, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do a lot of speed work in training because it comes so naturally to me because I used to be a sprinter, believe it or not. But yeah, it's nice that I know I can run a quick race now off the back of Monaco, and I can also do a tactical race that close well. And at the Olympics, you need to be able to run however.
And after that medal last year, how has the approach to these championships been, and the bigger stage with the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, my confidence is a lot higher, but also I feel like there's a bit more pressure on me. Now it's not, oh, I'm here to have fun, which obviously World Champs wasn't that, but it was more of a learning experience, and I came away with a medal, whereas now it's, I don't want to take a step backwards and not medal. I feel like in this sport you've got to keep striving for more, so yeah, the target is to go and get a medal, and I feel like off the back of last year that's very possible.
Oh, the optimism, I love it. Catherine, Mary, Alison, Kirbishley, when's the semi-final then?
Semi-finals are on Friday morning, Naga, of that men's 800 metres.
Oh, I won't be here to talk to you. You'll have lovely Adrian, though. Looking forward to it. It's going to be great, isn't it? Who's the best hope?
That is a hard call. You'd probably say Ben Patterson because he was a world medalist last year. But as Alison said, anything can happen in these middle distance races.
If we can get 3 into the final, I mean, that would be like back in the 1980s.
Yeah,
it's exactly what we had 3 men in the final that time. So, there's and obviously we know the outcome because we've got 2 medals. So I'll take that.
Certainly. Catherine, Alison, thanks so much. Speak soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, let's go to Conor McNamara. The coolest dude at the moment this week. He gets that moniker, don't you, Conor?
We're down with the kids. Down with the kids in the urban park.
And you're down with the 51-year-olds as well.
So this is, this is writing itself, Naga. I'm so looking forward to talking to you about this. Yesterday we had Zheng Haohao, age 11, competing in the women's skate park. And today we've got Andrew McDonald representing Team GP. And he has just turned 51. There's some sort of Marty McFly time travel thing going on here. I mean, this guy, if you're into skating, you might, in the 1990s, you might have had a video game which was called MTV Sports Skateboarding featuring Andy McDonald. That's in the 90s. He's still going. He's here at the Olympics for the first time.
He was in a game.
A video game in the 1990s. That is how long he's been doing this. He puts it all down, Naga, to clean living. He's never drank, he's never smoked, so much so that, again, in the 90s, he was invited to the White House by Bill Clinton, and he gave an anti-drug speech, and there was sort of famous images where he was skateboarding down the marble floors of the White House. But this is how long he's been around. He says he still knows everyone on the circuit, but they've all become coaches now, and he says they probably sneer at him behind his back, wondering, like, why doesn't this guy grow up? Why does he still want to compete? But here he is, competing and qualified and representing Team GP at the Olympics.
Who wants to grow up? No one wants to grow up.
Exactly.
And of course, the Team GB has a boost because Sky Brown with bronze yesterday, she was delighted.
Yeah,
wasn't
and you know
she?
what? And in the circumstances, that will be all the more special. So, everyone knows Sky Brown. At age 13, she won bronze in Tokyo. She was voted the Young Sports Personality of the Year at Spotty that year. She's been in TV adverts with Simone Biles and Serena Williams. She's become a really well-known face and name. And with that comes pressure. So a little bit older now, 16 years of age, arriving in Paris, everyone looking at her, everyone expecting her to produce the good things. But the day before she left to come to France, she dislocated her shoulder. And then there she was, 8-9 days later, in competition, dislocated shoulder, fell in the preliminaries and landed on that shoulder, aggravating the injury even worse. So to come out and put in a performance to get a bronze was really special for her yesterday.
It's worth kind of hearing from Andy McDonald, isn't it? Just in terms of, like, We've built him up, video
Definitely.
game man, but he's someone we're definitely going to get to know.
The rad dad. That's how he
the
describes
rad
himself.
dad. That's very cool. I told you were the cool dude of the team. So he's been talking about how he actually ended up representing GB, Team GB.
I don't think that a lot of people really grasp how lucky I am. Just like what a long shot it was from the beginning. I had a conversation with my wife, like, hey, my dad's British, so I could get a British passport and I could go out for the British national team. Like 2.5 years ago, I had that conversation with my wife. And if I happen to make the team, then they'll fund my journey toward the Olympics, going to all the qualification competitions all around the world, which will be fun, which would be super cool and a new experience and a learning experience for me, because what I think a lot of people don't realize is that Olympic park skateboarding is a discipline that I'm not known for. It's not, I have competed it in the past, but it was years and years ago, and it's like come a long way. I'm known for half pipe skating, which is more of a two-dimensional style skating, and it's on bigger ramps. The ramps that I've been riding almost exclusively for the past 20 years are 14 feet high. And by contrast, the bowls that I ride in skateboard park discipline are like 9 feet high. So they're a lot smaller, a lot quicker. Everything happens a lot faster. And it was like learning a new discipline for the Olympics, So I basically like started skating these park competitions and had to relearn how to do a lot of the tricks that I knew to do. So it was, some of the most frustrating and challenging skateboarding I've ever done.
So that was Andy McDonald. Conor McNamara is watching. Conor, is he goofy like me or regular like you?
Oh, you're asking me questions I don't know. I'm going to have to see him in action.
We'll
He's
have
not
to-
up yet.
we'll find out later.
He's coming off. He's going to be the last person to go in these preliminaries. There's 22 skaters. The top 8 get into the final, which is this afternoon. It would be a great achievement if Andrew McDonald could do that. I mean, you've heard from him there about, this isn't even his specialist discipline over the course of his career, but he saw the opportunity and he's reached out and grabbed it.
Should explain goofy, shouldn't we? So goofy is
Yeah.
when you put your right foot on the board and you push with your left, even if you're
Correct.
right-footed.
So what they say is that your dominant foot, now, and this is, we discussed this yesterday, this is why I would not make a good skater. I'm right-handed, right-footed. I would feel I want my right foot on the board for balance. However, if you're a good skater, you use your dominant foot as the pushing one. That's what guides on the ground. So if you're right-footed, you would have your left foot on the board. That's called the regular style. But if you do it the other way, if you put your right foot on, you push with your left, that's called goofy, because in an animated movie back in the day, Goofy went surfboarding and he was in that stance. So
And we
the
learnt
skaters
that.
have taken that on.
We learnt that from one of our listeners, didn't we,
Correct.
yesterday, which is always good. You can keep your thoughts coming in, by the way. Keep your hints and tips and keep helping us. 85058 is the number to text. Conor, I'll speak to you later. Thanks very
Naga.
much. Take care. I'm going to take you to the velodrome now. Qualifying for the men's sprint is just getting underway, and watching for us is two-time Olympic champion Victoria Pendleton. Hi, Victoria.
Hello.
And 5 Live's Alistair Bruce Ball. Hi, Alistair.
Good morning, Naga.
Morning to you. Just about got 12 minutes left of it. So this qualifying, how does that work? Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
the cycling has been beyond exciting and brilliant. It's just been
Always
fantastic.
is, Naga. Always
I
is.
don't know, I forget how brilliant it is
No,
until
it is.
Olympics come round,
Yeah.
and then I'm mega excited all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I say this every time I commentate on cycling. If you've never been inside, and it doesn't have to be an Olympic velodrome, but a velodrome to watch a top class meet, it just blows your mind because the atmosphere is so brilliantly kept inside. It's kind of a hermetically sealed environment. So particularly in an Olympics, and the British fans come in their droves. I mean, I think they are the best supported nation here, and I'd say they're actually better supported than France in this velodrome so far.
Yeah.
I mean, the British fans, they love it, don't they,
They
Victoria?
do, and actually, they travel all around the world to watch the team race. So we're very lucky to have such loyal supporters.
In terms of what we've got going on here, Naga, I'm actually going to let Victoria explain this. So I'm going to describe what's going on in front of me, but Victoria can explain the finer details of it. So this is the start of the men's individual sprint competition, which when we get into the later rounds is the head-to-head stuff. So it's two cyclists on the track together, a little bit of cat and mouse over 3 laps, and it's tactically intriguing to watch these battles, and Victoria was an expert at it. But at this stage of the competition, Victoria, we've got 30 riders that we're going to whittle down to 24. How are they doing that?
So basically they have to do a qualification lap. It's 200 metres of the track, and they get time to wind slowly up to the top of the boards. They usually get a coach to push them on, give them a little push to get going. They wind up to the top of the boards, and then they absolutely power from the highest point of the banking towards the middle of the bend to start a clock for a 200-metre time trial.
So that bell there, Naga, signifies the start of the 200-metre time trial. So as Victoria says, 2.5 laps to build up the pace. Then you're at full tilt, and our rider out at the moment is a Chinese rider, Zhu, who's coming flying down the home straight. He gets his time, and it is 9.514 seconds. So all 30 will go, and the top 24 will then start off in the knockout rounds. And the other thing, Victoria, it is seeded in this qualifying round. So as the riders go, we're going to see better and better rides, aren't we?
Yeah, you're going to see better and better rides. However, like the fastest time here makes a significant... It's not just about qualifying and getting through to the next round. The fastest time that you post means that you will have the easiest next round and an easiest route to the final. So it is really, really important for a sprinter to be able to post the fastest time.
Do you know off the top of your head what your fastest time was for a flying lap? No,
not anymore. Those numbers are all very jumbled in my head. Yeah, let that go years ago. But it's it
quick.
Basically, I tried to qualify first or top of the as many times as possible, because it gives you such an easy route, and it's many days of competition. You want to conserve energy, so the easiest route through to the final is key.
In 2012, Victoria, you set an Olympic record of 10.724 seconds.
That's well and truly gone. That's gone.
You were still fast, Victoria. I remember watching you and just thinking you were amazing.
At the time, I was
do.
fast. Compared to the standard now, though, I'm pedestrian.
Listen, can I ask a couple of questions? I've only been in a velodrome once, managed to get up to the top, very proud of myself, and stayed there, wasn't scared. Which is the fastest bit of the track? Because they start up top and then come down. Which is the fastest bit of the track?
So usually the transition out of the bend is the fastest place. So it's when you're going sort of downhill, when you can actually get out the saddle and generate power downhill. So that's so you want to get as high as possible to use every inch of height that you possibly can to help sort of send you flying into the bend at the start of your time trial. So you try and use every inch of the track.
Alistair, sorry, have you ever done it?
I've not.
Right.
I've
so,
not.
Do you know what? Everyone is petrified of doing it. Everyone I've spoken to. I'm like a nutcase. I wanted to just do it and find it. Best bit of advice I got, and Victoria, tell me if I'm talking utter nonsense. Best bit of advice I got is when you cycle on the road, right, you keep your bicycle wheels perpendicular to the road, yeah?
Yeah.
That's all you do, regardless of wherever you are on the track. You keep them perpendicular. So you don't tilt, you just keep them perpendicular. And once I had that in my head, I was whizzing round.
Yep. I mean, it's a really lovely sensation, isn't it, on the track? You get such a lovely sensation of speed. You'd love it. I don't know anybody that's ever tried it and thought, oh no, that wasn't much fun.
It's just that thing, Naga, and again, if people haven't been into a velodrome, I think your breath is taken away when you get to the end of the track and you stand and just look over the barriers down the sort of steepest part of the banking, because it is like a sheer drop.
I didn't do that. I walked in from the middle, so I didn't have to do that.
It's the safest way. Always the safest way.
The scariest thing, I'd say, is you can't unclip your feet.
No, and these riders here will have like twice as much attachment to the pedal as you probably had, because just in case you pull a foot out, so you clip it and you can barely take your foot out, and then you put another couple of straps over the top of your foot just in case safety, and then an extra safety just in case, because obviously pulling a foot out would be devastating. So you usually have to, sometimes a bit of assistance. You take someone else to go and help you get off your bike.
Yes, because you just have to keep cycling till someone can stop you.
Just keep pedalling.
Okay, so Team GB, we've got Jack Carlin, Hamish Turnbull. What are they like? How do they compare?
Well, they're both actually excellent sprinters in their own right, and Jack Carling has been, unfortunately, come up against the Dutch on a few occasions. If those Dutch riders weren't as strong as they were in the sprint, he definitely would have medalled higher on the podium. But he's definitely one to watch in this. Hamish is a bit of a slightly younger rider in terms of experience on the track at this level. We don't know, but obviously with Jason Kenny as their coach, they know excellent tactics. They have a lot of excellent practice together.
In terms of this discipline, Naga, Beijing 2008, Britain won gold and silver, Chris Hoy and Jason Kenny. Jason Kenny then won the title in 2012 and 2016. That's the support I'm talking about for the British riders. So we've timed this perfectly now. Hamish Turnbull is about to begin his flying lap. So we'll talk you through it. 25-year-old from Morpeth, competing in his first Olympics, already has a silver medal in the bag because he was part of that men's team sprint team that got to the gold medal ride yesterday and got beaten by the brilliant Dutch team. But as you say, Victoria, Jack Carlin will go third last in qualifying here, so he's the bronze medalist from Tokyo. But the last two are going to be the guys to beat, and they're the Dutchmen who were part of the team sprint yesterday, Jeffrey Hoogland and Harry Lavraessen.
Yeah, so here comes Hamish now into the 200-metre time trial starting now.
Yeah, flying into the back straight. Hamish Turnbull, head over the handlebars, leaning in to that final bend. Down he comes. We'll keep an eye on the clock. Here we go, 9.346. That is the quickest time so far. Technically, Victoria, when you watch riders doing that, what are you looking for?
So basically, not move as soon as they get into their flow, into their speed at the 200. As little fidgeting as possible. So it's got to be power with no unnecessary moment. You don't want to see them pulling the bike around or swaying around. Very still, very low, and very aero, because aerodynamics is such a big part of posting that fastest time. So he definitely he for quite a big guy, he gets very, very small on the bike. So it's a skill in itself.
So that's the quickest so far, Naga, but we've got 22 riders still to go, and they just keep churning them out, and we'll be doing it for a while. His time there, 9.346. World record is 9.100, but obviously in this sport, over a short distance, those are very fine margins. And surely, Victoria, with the world records we've already seen broken on this track, would you expect more to come?
I mean, I wouldn't. It's not quite as warm as it was yesterday in here. Not yet.
So a degree of temperature would make a difference.
Definitely make a difference. So who knows? But I mean, it seems like it's a fast track. It's been recently renovated. It's been sanded to perfection. Yeah. So who knows? It could see some world records today.
So Hamish Turnbull, fastest qualifier so far, and Jack Carlin, third last to go in this qualification, Naga.
We'll come back to you for Jack Carlin. May I add, just in terms of being completely frivolous, I do think Hamish Turnbull wins the best outfit, because I think he looked like something out of Kylie Minogue's Can't Get You Out of My Head video. It looked very, very cool. Alistair Bruce Ball, Victoria Pendleton, back soon. Thank you. I want to take you back to the Stade de France. Team GB's Reeve Walcott-Nolan has a second chance of reaching the semi-finals of the women's 1500 metres. Catherine Merry, this is the second chance repechage.
It is indeed. So basically, any athlete at the Olympic Games in certain events that don't automatically hit the qualifying standard go into this round.
Okay, and they're just about to go.
Yeah, sorry, I paused there for the gun to go off. That's all right. No worries, no one can hear us over here on our side of the stadium, so we are good to go. And as you mentioned, Reeve Walcott-Nolan, the Luton athlete, didn't finish in the automatic qualifying spot like her teammates Laura Muir and Georgia Bell did. So she lines up here trying to finish in the first three to get to the semi-final tomorrow. Alison Kerbishley, they hit that sunshine patch again on the top bend. The high jumpers have left. Gianmarco Tamberi and Mutaz Essebashim, who shared the gold medal back in Tokyo, qualifying for that high jump final later in the week. And the British athlete Alison Reeve is happy to take the lead in this repechage race, but it's not particularly quick.
Yeah, Reeve was really disappointed in her heat, finishing down in 8th place, and was very much hoping for a qualification straight through from that first round. She's posted a personal best time this year of just outside 4 minutes, and is in the form of her life. So she's come here, she's got this second chance, and she's really going to try and make the most of it. Through the first 467 seconds, not particularly quick, and everybody else is enjoying sitting on her shoulder, the likes of Lyndon Hall from Australia, who's well inside 4 minutes this year. She's just letting her take the pace. We've also got the training partner of Keely Hodgkinson in here, representing Ireland. Sarah Healy coaches Trevor Painter, and Jenny Meadows are out here, and we've got British-born Adele Tracy, but now representing Jamaica in this. I think this is her fourth race of these championships, doing the 800 and 1500 metre double. But Reeve Walcott-Nolan still takes this group round with Lyndon Hall of Australia sitting on her shoulder.
Yeah, two massive screens here either end of the Stade de France, with a lovely overhead shot of this whole field. It's about 4 metres deep and 3 metres wide. Revy Walcott-Nolan there. Somebody tried to go on the inside of the British athlete. I think Veldelest of Belgium, who's currently in third place, tried to take that inside line that we talk about. But Walcott-Nolan said nope and closed the door. But down the back straight now it's starting to crank up. Walcott-Nolan, Healy of Ireland's in there, Lyndon Hall of Australia as well. And the British athlete now back into third place. A reminder, the top 3 qualify for the semi-final tomorrow.
Yeah, it's really slow, but all of a sudden this injection of pace has been added. Lyndon Hall from Australia saying, I'm not leaving this to a last lap burn-up. I'm going to make the long run from home, and it's the Spaniard that's gone with her. Reve Walcott-Nolan now relegated to third place, but she's holding her place well. She's got to get into the top 3. She's got the Italian Visser vying for that third spot with her, but a clear 3 are pulling away. Lyndon Hall, we've got the Spaniard, then Reve Walcott-Nolan. This time they hear the bell.
The final lap of this second semi-final, the women's 1500 metres repechage. It is the Australian that leads. She's a 3:56 runner at her best. She was 6 at the last Olympic Games. But now the British athlete Walcott-Nolan gets herself onto the Australian shoulder. Down the back straight for the final time. They're strung out one by one in this semi-final. And it's a battle, Alison, for the winner of this one, and Walcott-Nolan takes the lead.
Yeah, Reve Walcott-Nolan looking really, really good. A very different athlete than the one we saw in the first round. She's now hit the front again. Marquez of Spain right on her shoulder. Visser of Italy and Lyndon Hall from Australia, the quickest in the field, is just falling like a stone through water. She's dropping way, way back. Sarah Healy making a last charge from Ireland to try and get in this top 3, but Reve looking wonderful.
Yeah, the British athlete looking to close this one out. She's holding on at the moment. The Italian's closing on her, though, in terms of winning this semi-final, but she will go through into that semi-final. In second place, it looks like Visser, the Italian, is in a photo finish with Reve Walcott-Nolan, and therefore it will be 3 British athletes, Naga Munchetty, Georgia Bell and Reve Walcott-Nolan in to the semi-finals of the women's 15.
Just fabulous. Quick question, Alison, was it you said that Reve looks a very different athlete this time round compared to the first round? What's changed? I mean, obviously she's performed brilliantly. She knew she was comfortable at the end. But what's changed, do you think?
She's clearly just, I don't know whether it's just switched the brain on. She looked so disappointed in the first round, and she was kind of bumped and barged, and the race just ran away from her, and she was way down in 8th, outside of the top 6 qualification there. And I think she's obviously gone back and thought, you know what, this is my opportunity to make an Olympic final, and I've got to get to the semi-final first, but I've got this second chance. Repechage is the first time we've ever had it in an Olympic Games, first time we've ever had it at a global championship. It's this second chance, and now she's got it. Yes, she's got an extra race in her legs, and she's got to get back to the village now, and she's got a whole sort of day and a half to recover from that, because it wasn't massively quick, but it's still another race in her legs. But she goes again tomorrow, and we wait to see the semi-final draw to see who she's going to be drawn with, and can we get 3 women into the final?
Oh, come on, let's do it. Catherine Merry, Alison Kirbishley, it's been a joy. Enjoyed. I'm jealous Adrian gets to get your company, but I will be listening.
Just tune in. I was going to say, just tune in.
Of course, always. Do you know what? I've actually listened to the Olympics way more. It's the Olympics I've listened to far more than I've watched, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Can you hear this in the back just before we leave you? This is our favourite song. I never knew this song before I came here. Champs-Élysées. Have you ever heard it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favourite. This is going to be my ringtone. And they play it in the stadium, and it's like karaoke. They put the words on the screen. And they haven't played it the last 2 days, and we just get it.
You get
as we wave you off.
I'm going to leave you to your karaoke. Sing loud and proud, ladies.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. It's a nice bit, nice, wasn't it? It is 3 minutes past 12. Let's get you an update with the news. Beth Ann Holmes will bring you that.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Nearly 6,000 officers are ready to respond as further riots could be seen in parts of the UK later. Solicitors and independent immigration advice centres are reportedly listed online as possible targets for gatherings, as is Dean is a solicitor in Bristol.
Solicitors, especially those focusing on immigration and asylum, should not be targeted in any way. Policy is not in their hands. Policy is in the hands of politicians to go after the individuals who represent asylum seekers and actually lawful migrants who come here for work, on work sponsorships and the like, to attack them and to make them feel threatened. It's disgraceful.
Well, we're just hearing a man has been jailed for 3 years for taking part in the violent disorder in Southport last week. Derek Drummond is the first offender to be sent to prison for the offence since that trouble began. The Commons Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, has also advised MPs who have high-profile constituency offices to consider working from home today. The inquests have opened into the deaths of 3 girls who were killed in last week's knife attack in Southport at a dance class. The full inquests are expected to be held next year. In other news today, more than 1,000 British military personnel have been put on standby to help with the evacuation of British nationals from Lebanon. It follows a Foreign Office warning the situation in the Middle East could deteriorate rapidly. Tensions have grown in the region following the killing of Hamas's political leader in Iran and a senior Hezbollah commander. The Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, has made his first appearance as Kamala Harris's running mate for the US presidential election. The pair appeared at their first rally together in Philadelphia. Professor of Government at the University of Essex, Dr. Gina Yanitel-Reinhardt.
There are people in America who are going to be concerned about voting for a woman and voting for a person of color. And he was chosen without a doubt, in part for his visual image and his race and gender.
The water regulator, Ofwat, is to appoint an independent monitor to Thames Water to assess the company's progress towards turning around both its performance and its finances. Last month, Thames Water's credit rating was downgraded twice by agencies, breaching the terms of its licence. Ofwat has proposed a £104 million fine on the firm as a punishment for sewage spills. And Halifax is warning lower mortgage costs and more interest rate cuts could fuel a rise in house prices for the rest of the year. It's after property prices ticked up in July following a flat few months. Halifax says affordability challenges and lack of available properties still poses problems for buyers.
This summer, immerse yourself in the world's greatest classical music festival. From the epic Holst and Beethoven to Sam Smith reimagined. And a symphonic Florence and the Machine. The BBC Proms. Watch on iPlayer, listen on BBC Sounds.
The Olympic Games, Paris 2024.
With Naga Munchetty.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Hello, welcome back to day 12 of the Olympic Games. Alistair Bruce Ball is watching qualifying for the men's sprint.
And Britain's Hamish Turnbull second quickest so far out of the 18 riders. Naga just can't get him out of her head. Jack Carlin still to go for Britain on this flying lap. 24 of the 30 go through.
They are flying in the velodrome. Conor McNamara is watching the heats of the men's park skateboard.
Yes, amid a party atmosphere at Place de la Concorde, we're waiting for 51-year-old Rad Dad Andrew MacDonald to represent Team GB. He's hoping to book his place in this evening's final.
Ian Carter is watching the opening round of the women's individual stroke play golf.
And a solid start for GB's Georgia Hall, 2 pars in the opening hole, so she is at level par, 3 shots off the lead. A struggle for the defending champion Nelly Corder. She's at 2 over par after 11, and a really awful start for Charlie Hull, 7 over par after 12 holes.
It's a 4-day tournament, early days. We will bring you every Team GB medal live here on 5 Live. You can also follow events on the BBC Sport website and app, or watch on BBC One and iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sports at the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
I cannot pick where to go. I will be told, and we will get you everywhere because there's action underway. So let's go to the velodrome. Check in on the men's sprint. 5 Live's Alistair Bruce Ball is there with Victoria Pendleton. Hello.
Hello again.
Oh, what's going on?
11 riders still to go in the qualifying for the men's sprint, individual men's sprint. We were commentating, Victoria, on Hamish Turnbull quite a while ago, so he went out quite early, but he's still got the second fastest time so far.
Yeah, which means the seeding wasn't necessarily replicating their performances, so which is a great thing to see. So currently, Lee Hoffman of Australia posting the fastest time, and Hamish Turnbull in second position.
And just remind the listeners again, so, if Hamish Turnbull, say, finishes, he may not finish second, but let's say he finishes
in the
six.
top 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want to do in order to make it easier in the next round. You'll hit basically the fastest rider from the qualification will ride the slowest rider, and then the second fastest, second slowest.
Yeah.
So the higher up the ranking, the easier your first round will be.
And what they're doing at the moment, Naga, as we were explaining, is building up to riding one super fast 200 metres to get their qualifying time. When we go into the knockout rounds, that's when it becomes head-to-head, proper match sprinting on the track. 2 riders starting stock still over 3 laps. One of them has to lead off, don't they, Victoria? That's done by a draw.
By a draw, yeah.
And then it's just who gets to the line first, and there are a myriad of different ways to do that.
And just to get these are the fastest efforts on the track. The current leader went 77.9 kilometres an hour in his effort, so pretty fast.
I'm going to come back to you to see how Jack Carling does. I'm going to jump over to the skateboarding park. Any similarities? Wheels are kind of involved. Men's park skateboarding final just got underway. Coolest kid on the block, Conor McNamara, has been sent there, obviously, at La Place de la Concorde. How's it going?
Well, we are waiting for Andrew MacDonald, this 51-year-old who's been drawn to go the very last competitor in these heats. Now, that doesn't reflect anything of his performance. It's just the way he's come out of the draw. He's in the 4th heat of the 22. So far, the scores, just to give you an idea, I mean, there's an American, Keir Palmer, who's got 93.78. That's out of 100, so extremely high standards. But, for example, Victor Solmund of Denmark, his best has been 42.95.
Is that because he fell over?
Exactly. So what happens is, if you fall over, if you wipe out, as they say, that's the end of your round. And you get 45 seconds. If you come off after a second or two, your score will be 3 or 4 points out of 100. Maybe you get 20-25 seconds into your routine. That's where you might get a score like Victor Solmund, around 42. But definitely what we saw in the women's yesterday was completing your 45 seconds and staying up on the board. That goes an awful long way. That's where the risk reward comes in. How high do you want to go? How many tricks do you want to put in? To impress the judges at Olympic standard, you've of course got to show them what you can do.
You know, I called you the cool kid on the block.
I mean, I think that could stick, Naga, to be honest.
I'm happy for it to stick.
I mean, most people do, so, yeah.
Do they? Okay, it doesn't surprise me. So, when you have you spoken to any of the skateboarders?
No. But it's quite funny here. Where our commentary position is, we're up in the stands. They have a separate sort of mix zone where they do their interviews, but I'm not cool enough to be down there. You need some serious skater threads to get down there, I think.
If you think you'd meet them, right, later, I mean, you might meet them out and about after they finish competing. Do you know, like, when... Have you ever... I don't know how old you are, right? But when
I'm 47.
Okay, I'm 49, so similar age. So if someone... I have never said the word sick, because I would be embarrassed to say it. And I'm just wondering if you would ever say kind of rad to any of them, or if you would be just like, no, this is not my world.
Yeah, well, I find it's a little bit like the sort of Del Boy in Only Fools and Horses. I think when you meet a French person, you start speaking French. I mean, I think when you surround yourself with
but
these,
that's okay. Language is okay.
It sort of creeps in, doesn't it? Where you sort of you start using the terminology.
Have you said rad?
No, the only time I'd say sick is if I was talking to a doctor.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever knowingly said rad without it being a little twinkle in the eye or a wink. But it's funny. This is. There is a whole culture, and I think you don't need to know anything about skateboarding as an Olympic sport to appreciate the culture. You see people in every town and city. There is a fashion to it. There is, of course, terminology.
Best fashion.
There is jewellery. It is great fashion. And you know what? It hasn't changed that much. If you look at skateboarder images from the 80s, 90s, and look at what they're wearing today, quite interesting how it's very similar, so that there is a classic style to it.
It's an ethos, isn't it? It's an ethos rather than a fashion,
and it's quite rebellious. It's quite non-conformist, isn't it? It's got usually the people who took up skateboarding were maybe those who weren't on the rugby team or the hockey team or what have you. They have looked for their own little niche. They want to be alternative about it. But make no mistake, this is proper athletes stuff. There is a fitness required here, there is an agility, and there is a bravery, Naga, because the falls that they take, and we saw yesterday with the women, they're coming down from 9-10 feet. The men get even higher vantage points than that, so when things go wrong and when they come down, you're coming down hard onto a slab of concrete. There are a lot of injuries in this as well, so you've got to be a proper athlete.
Thank goodness for padding. That's what I say. Thank goodness for good knee pads. Connor, thanks very much.
Thanks.
I'll come back to you. Definitely, of course. Let's go over to the golf. Ian Carter at Le Golf National. Am I being unfair? I mean, we're talking about just how the cool kids are all at the skate park, right? And the very, very cool fashion. And I know golf has moved on so much from plus fours and everything, but it definitely isn't going to be called the cool kid gang, is it? Ian? Is Ian there? Is he being quiet because he's... Oh, he might. I reckon he's being quiet, maybe just because he's someone might be taking a shot. I'll put that question to Ian a little later. Let's go back to the cycling, shall we? Alistair Bruce Ball, Victoria Pendleton, where they have the pop star dancer look-alikes in their sport, don't you guys?
Hamish Turnbull. Sorry,
yes,
Naga. Yeah,
can't get you out of my head. You said
sorry,
it at the top.
I was on that wavelength. I'd gone off that wavelength. I'm now back on that wavelength. I mean, the skin suits look amazing, and some of them are so brilliantly designed. I always enjoy that game, Victoria, of trying to pick my sort of favourite colour combination. New Zealand, great, isn't it?
Yeah. They look like ninjas on the track.
Exactly that, Naga. So they are all...
Speed ninjas.
Yeah, all in black, but with the silver ferns across them. And the Chinese, as Victoria was explaining the other day, in the sort of bright red with the golden trim, but have these sort of very intricate dragons etched into the cycling helmets, and they're pretty eye-catching too.
Victoria, when you in 2012, when you were competing, did you have these exact? They developed them obviously. Were these the outfits you had?
Oh, they've definitely come on. The fabric, you can see it's slightly different fabric and a slightly different cut as well. But they're always trying to develop it, but mostly just to fit bespoke. I think it was one of the first times I'd ever had a skin suit that was made for me rather than a men's extra small.
Yeah, I was going to ask how they measured you for it.
Yeah,
like if you had to be sunk into a mould or something like that.
Nothing like that. Nothing like that. We had a lovely lady called Sally who came and adjusted the skin suits to make them fit. So nothing as fancy as that, but it really some of them were incredibly difficult to get on. It took two other people to try and shake you down into it, and then you couldn't stand up straight because it was so tight, so until you leant over your bike you could do up the zip.
Hence the guys unzipping before and after.
Definitely, otherwise you walk with a hunch around the velodrome.
And was getting it off like taking a wet swimming suit off?
Oh yeah, let's not even go there. On a hot day like this, awful. Such a relief to get in the shower and put something baggy on, dressed like a skateboarder instead.
Yeah.
I've heard a bell. What's going on?
Yeah, 5 riders to go. This is Matthew Richardson of Australia in the green and gold. You can never mistake the Australian athlete. He's coming around into the home straight here, hits the line, and he is the quickest so far. New world record for the flying lap. Now, the flying lap is not an event in itself. You can't win an Olympic gold medal for the flying lap. You've got to take that sort of speed on into the individual sprint and the head-to-head. But again, it just proves, Victoria, fast-track world records in all events getting smashed all the time. Yeah,
the best kit being pulled out for the Olympics. Perfectly fitting skin suits, the best helmets, the best wheels, everything. So they're bringing it all together here to get those world records.
I think I'm right in saying, Naga, sorry, he's British-born, Matthew Richardson, but races for Australia. I'm going to double-check on that, but that is sort of, that's niggling away at me in my brain. Hamish Turnbull, who is representing Great Britain here, 4th fastest so far, and we've got 4 riders to go. Jack Carlin next but 1.
Victoria, you said like best helmets, best bikes and everything. Yeah. When you're practicing, surely it's as good. Surely the equipment you're using is as good, or do you just have the stuff you save for best?
Well, we always say like train heavy, race light. So a little bit more resistance in training is a good thing. You don't necessarily put double discs, which are those filled-in wheels, on your bike until you get to race day or a couple of efforts before race day, because you want the training effect of riding with spokes. So you really do save the best for competition.
Oh, I learn something every day. Ali, did you get that fact out of your head? Or
yes, no, it's there. I was
looking through my Bible
reference.
to help.
No, he is British-born. Matthew Richardson rides for Australia. He's the quickest so far, and he set the world record for the flying lap. So, the next 3, who have we got next, Victoria? It's Jack Carlin. Jack Carlin.
Yep.
So I think this is going to be a good couple of minutes here, Naga, because we got the fastest time set by Matthew Richardson, 9.091. Hamish Turnbull for Great Britain, 4th fastest so far. Next up is Jack Carlin for GB, and then we've got Jeffrey Hoogland and Harry Lavraeusson. So I'm expecting some speed.
Well, I mean, with the form they had yesterday, I wouldn't be surprised if that world record goes again. And Jack Carlin starts accelerating down the back straight, gaining speed, coming round the last bend.
Beautiful to watch as the bell goes. He's high on the banking at the moment, and then as Victoria explained, he uses that slope and dips down to the inside lane. British fans roaring him on down the back straight. Into the final bend he goes, whipping into the home straight here, and comes flashing past our eyes and sets a time of 9.247. That is 4th quickest so far, Victoria, just ahead of Hamish Turnbull.
Yep, safely through into in a good position for the next round.
That's a really good point, actually, Naga, for both British riders. So we've got the 2 Dutchmen still to go who are going to absolutely bomb round here, and it'll be interesting to see whether they can set a new world record. But Jack Carlin and Hamish Turnbull, first job, done well, get themselves a good draw for the next round.
Victoria, is it surprising to see world records being set at this stage?
No. I mean, the 200-metre time trial is the fastest. There's no one else on the track. It's just you going for an effort. It's sticking to the black line. I think when you see the time trial events at the Olympic Games, everybody brings, as you say, everything they have to try and break the record, from the kit and the preparation. You know, these are the most important competitions every 4 years. So it's not surprising. They've always get breaking at the Olympics.
At the qualifying, though, I'm sorry, I wasn't.
This is the only time you get to do a 200-metre time trial is in this qualifying lap. The rest is just racing.
Can I ask you another question? Laura Kenny reckons that Team GB's track cycling squad has the talent to win 8 golds in Paris. Are you there? Are you with her optimism?
I'm definitely that optimistic. Yeah, I totally would agree with her with that, 100%. Yeah,
it's fabulous.
I can't tell you what, like some of the medals, I was like, I'm not sure what colour, but yeah, I think that's very realistic.
Impressive. We've got one more to go here.
We have Harry Lavraeusson, who is the Olympic champion and the world champion and the European champion and
just a champion, full stop. Yeah,
he's a
mega champion.
He's a sprint champion. He's a speedster. Let's see what he can do. No one's got past Matt Richardson's time yet. So Jeffrey Hoogland, the other Dutchman who won gold in the team sprint last night, actually slower than Carlin. He split Carlin and Turnbull. Lavraeusson, though, as we say, Victoria, is different gravy.
He is. He's absolutely a machine, quite frankly.
Although we know the Dutch, it's mayonnaise on the frite, isn't it? It's not gravy, I don't think, for the Dutch. Here we go. Lavraeusson then comes down the banking in the bright orange of the Netherlands, flying down that back straight, legs pumping furiously on the bike there, whipping into the home straight. Here he comes. Will it be the world record? Yes, it will.
Wow.
Just by 3/1000ths of a second, he sets the fastest time on the flying lap. So in terms of the match racing we've got later on in this competition, look out for Harry Lavraeusson, Matthew Richardson, Mikhail Yakovlev, who was born in Russia but now cycles for Israel, an absolute beast of a man on a bike, about 6'6" tall, and with a big bushy beard as well. He's fantastic to watch. Jack Carlin, Hamish Turnbull, they'll be in the mix as well in the later stages.
I'm going to say goodbye, but one quick question. Is the time for when the whole bike goes over or when the front wheel hits the line?
Just the very first part of the bike. Yeah, the tyre, yeah.
Thank you. Just because we've been having all those discussions about chest going over, head going over the line with the humans, but it's good to know what's happening with the machines as well. Victoria, Alistair, we'll speak later.
Thank you.
Cheers, Naga.
Thank you. I'm going to take a step away from the Olympics for the moment. We've had some news just in the last 20 minutes. We understand that 3 men have been jailed for taking part in the violent disorder which followed the fatal stabbing of 3 girls in Southport last week. The men's names are Derek Drummond, Declan Gearan and Liam Riley. Now, these are the first offenders to be sent to prison for the offences. This is after a week of violence in England and Northern Ireland. Now, separately to that, we understand that police are preparing for the possibility of more violence today, with reports that at least 30 riots, protests, incidents, events could be held. Now, a list claiming to contain the names and addresses of immigration lawyers has been spread online. Lawyers have told the BBC they've been advised by police to work from home. They've been advised to board up office windows and install fireproof letterboxes. These are immigration lawyers who've been told, or who've been advised to do this. Professor Adila Shafi is a founding member of the Bristol Muslim Strategic Leadership Group and joins me now. Professor Shafi, Adila, hello, good afternoon.
Hi there.
Okay, so we've had the news of the first three offenders being sent to prison. It's been made very clear by Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, that he and the law is going to clamp down very hard on these rioters and promise communities that they will be safe. Do you believe that promise, that he can keep certain communities which are being targeted safe?
Well, I think the test of that really will be as we go further along. I mean, certainly they are warm words, and they do support people to feel better in the here and now. But whether or not that continues is going to be the real test. At the moment, we're in the thick of it, certainly here in Bristol, and we are expecting these same rioters to be coming to an immigration lawyer here in Bristol. And we are preparing communities alongside the police on how to stay safe, how to avoid the area, and how to explain this to children and other vulnerable people about what is actually going on. It is creating a sense of fear, uncertainty, wondering what this is all about, wondering what is next, how is this going to be contained, when is it going to be contained. So there are a lot of ifs and hows and whens going on, and it's creating a real sense of panic and anxiety as well.
How do you explain it to the communities and to children?
Well, the first thing is that we have to get through now. So as communities, we are really very much focused on the here and now, how to get through today and if it carries on. And one of the ways to explain it to children is there are difficulties here. And what we need to do is we need to stay safe, and we need to not respond or react in the way that these rioters want us to respond and react. And that's not always easy to do when clearly you feel targeted, you want to defend yourself, you want to go out there and say, not on our doorstep. And yet we're all encouraging them to stay away for the better good, and also for their own safety and for potential consequences. So it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. I cannot imagine it is easy. The reason I ask, I was on the tube today coming to work, and I saw three people of different creeds and colours and sexes looking at their phones, and there was an Asian man next to me, and I'm very nosy. I looked at his phone, and he had a WhatsApp message saying, "It's getting worse. This is really frightening now." And there was video of some rioting. You are, even though you're trying to address what is happening here and now, there are videos out there, and people are talking about this. People know what is happening, and children, especially with social media, will be aware, won't they? And that fear feels, I don't know, it's a fear genuinely, personally, that I haven't, felt for a very, very long time.
Yeah, it is a genuine fear and anxiety and panic, and we have been given good assurances by the police. We are being kept very much in close communication with regards to the policing operation, which is aimed at trying to contain the riots in a particular area and space, so as not to go further into the locations where many Muslim and other minority ethnic communities live, and where they're going is actually very close to that. So that's created additional anxiety because it's getting even closer. Last Saturday, it was in the city centre, which was slightly further out, and people thought, OK, we can stay away from this. But now it's coming closer, so it feels even more triggering and anxiety provoking. So we've been working really closely with the police. We've had numerous meetings since, and the most recent one being last night, and one coming up at 2:00 this afternoon to hear more about the policing operation, so that we can reassure communities, including, as you say, children, that we will be kept safe during this period. But of course, the police themselves do not know the extent to which this will go. So that's also the fear, because there's much of the knowledge about what's going on is coming through social media, and we all know that social media is full of information. Some of it is real, some of it isn't, some of it is old. So it's really hard to verify what you should believe, and the police are in a similar situation, really. So that part means that you feel reassured, but you're still worried.
There's also an aspect of community that has re-emerged, I should say, or been strengthened with those who are saying, not in my name. This is not happening in my name, and this is my community, and I love my community, and I will protect it as well. In terms of support from, you say you've been speaking to the police, but in terms of support from other areas of the community, what have you seen?
Well, we've seen a lot of that, actually. Faith communities all coming together, different communities. It's not been unusual to find flowers at the doorsteps of the mosques, with allyship and saying, we're all with you. Of course, there's messages on social media, formal and informal messages. So actually, although we are in a really terrible and terrifying situation, it does also bring out the best in people as well. And those words of comfort and standing alongside you really can't be underestimated, because it really does help. So those who are going out of the way to send messages of support and solidarity, it really is helping. People are feeling very comforted by that. So thank you really to all those people.
Yeah, just a shame that they have to be thanked for doing that, isn't it? Professor Adila Shafi, founding member of the Bristol Muslim Strategic Leadership Group, thank you very much for your time with us here on 5 Live.
Thank you for having me.
It is 12:30. Before I get to the news, I want to step back to the velodrome. Alistair Bruce Ball is there. Now, Team GB's Katie Marchant is on the move.
She is. This is the first round of the women's keirin, so we'll explain that event to you as we go. Emma Finucane and Katie Marchant, both part of the team that won gold on the first night in the women's team sprint for Great Britain. They will have medal chances in this event as well. I'm going to get Victoria to explain this. Victoria, I think this is my favourite event in the velodrome. It's so unusual, so exciting. You won a gold medal at London 2012, and at the moment we've got a fella sitting on a moped who is just gently sort of building the pace for the 6 riders in the race.
So he will build the pace slowly up to 50 kilometres an hour, at which stage, after 3 laps, he will peel off, and it'll be a 3-lap, free-for-all, 6-rider sprint.
Was this your favourite? Did you have a favourite event?
Originally this wasn't an Olympic event for me, so it didn't carry much importance. But then when it came in London, I really wanted to be the first person to win it. It's fun to ride.
Which you did.
Yeah.
So the pace has been built. The moped disappears off the track, and as Victoria said, 3 laps to go, and the New Zealand rider Aless Andrews has taken this out fast. Top 2 go through to the quarterfinals. If you don't end up in the top 2, you can still qualify through the repechage, and Katie Marchant is moving up here, Victoria, along the back straight.
Yeah, Mathilde Gross of France is taking the lead, hence the cheer in the crowd. And then New Zealand is holding back a bit, leaving a gap. Katie's on the wheel of the New Zealand rider with 1 lap to go.
Yeah, you heard the bell, 1 lap to go. Katie Marchant in good position. Top 2 go through. Marchant trying to go on the outside here. Aless Andrews and Mathilde Gross still ahead of her. Marchant looking for pace down the back straight. That's going to be desperately tight, and we will wait to see the results.
It's a photo finish for Aless Andrews, Mathilde Gross and Katie Marchant.
So all 3 of them across the line at the same time.
I think Katie got there. I think she did.
I love it when you call it, Victoria.
But
no, she didn't.
Oh, no.
Scratch that.
So that's the first time it's been really wrong. Sorry about that.
No. Aless Andrews and Mathilde Gross qualify automatically. Just talk me through repechage as well.
So the 2 riders will go through automatically into the second round, but there'll be a first round repechage where riders get a second chance to re-enter the competition.
Yes.
So they'll be put up in new heats and be able to get through.
Yeah, 4 repechage races to come, so Katie Marchant will go into one of those, and you've got to finish in the top 2 of one of those, Naga, to then qualify. So there is a second chance.
I'm going to be talking to you very soon, and obviously we will cover that as well. And I have questions. Alistair and Victoria, brace yourselves. See you soon. Okay, well, tension's still high in the velodrome. Obviously, where else? Why wouldn't it be? We've got skateboarding to bring you. We've got golf going on, and of course, lots of action in the velodrome as well. All that to come, of course. First, though, it is 12:33. You had that news I brought you earlier. Beth Ann Holmes is going to update you with that. Hi, Beth Ann.
Afternoon, Naga. 3 men have been jailed following the violence in Southport last week. 58-year-old Derek Drummond has been jailed for 3 years. He's the first offender to be sentenced for violent disorder. 29-year-old Declan Gearan has been sentenced to 30 months and 40-year-old Liam Riley has been given 20 months behind bars. All further riots are expected today. Nearly 6,000 public order trained officers are being mobilised to respond to any violence. Communities Minister Jim McMahon says anyone involved will face the full force of the law. In other news today, more than 1,000 UK military personnel have been put on standby to help with the possible evacuation of British nationals from Lebanon. Hundreds of troops have been sent to Cyprus, where the UK already has a military presence, and hundreds more are on notice. Over the weekend, the Foreign Office repeated a warning for Brits to leave Lebanon, where Israel killed a senior Hezbollah commander. And Halifax is warning lower mortgage costs and more interest rate cuts could fuel a rise in house prices for the rest of this year. It's after property prices ticked up in July following a flat few months.
Welcome to the Tooney and Russo show in Ibiza! I'm here with two of football's most famous friends, Alessia Russo and Ella Toon.
What do you mean I can't go on? This is what this holiday's been booked for. It's all about the big inflatable. You're telling me I can't go on? You're crushing my dream. I'm delirious. I could think that last night.
It's nice to come out and have a bit of a holiday, isn't it?
From BBC 5 Live, the Tooney and Russo show with me, Vic Hope.
Watch on YouTube and listen on BBC Sounds.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The voice of the UK.
With Naga Munchetty.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Welcome back, 12:35. Let's jump straight over to the men's park skateboarding final, which is underway. Conor McNamara is watching the early stages at the fabulously impressive Place de la Concorde. Hey, Conor.
Yeah, crowds of thousands here building up to the Olympic debut of skateboard legend Andrew MacDonald, born in Massachusetts but representing Team GB. At 51 years of age, he's hoping to book his place in this evening's Skateboard Park Olympic final.
It sounds brilliant there. What have we seen so far? Have we seen some really good scores? Because obviously we're all experts now after watching the women yesterday.
We are all experts. We've had 24 hours to take this in. You've got this this large park, which is the best way to describe it. It's like an empty swimming pool, but there are some rails and boxes which are sort of like little lumps that are in the middle. They slide up on those. You can go along the edge of it. On the wall, they've got called the vertical wall extension. So obviously a little groove at the bottom to get the board, but with enough speed you then go completely vertical up in the air, and it's when they get some height that's when they can pull out the stunts and the tricks and impress the judges. Each skater gets 3 goes. It's not an average score of the 3. You take your best score, so you can take risks. You can fall once or twice and still put in a good score. The best we've seen in the early heats has been from the Australian Keegan Palmer. He's got a score of 93.78. Tom Scher of USA 92.05. The top 8 go through to the final. At the moment, Tate Carew from the United States of America is in 8th position, 77.18. So that's the early target, the clubhouse lead, if you like. But that number will go up because we haven't had half of the skaters in action yet. Very last out in these heats is Andrew MacDonald representing Team GB.
Last out. OK, Conor, we will come back to you for that, definitely. Let's go from that big upside-down swimming pool to the big, bright open air of Le Golf National, where the women's individual stroke play is underway. The first day of 4. I don't know why I automatically dropped my voice. It's just... It's what you do, Ian Carter, isn't it, when you're around golf?
It's just the natural thing when you're around golfers. But the atmosphere here is really cranking up, Naga, because Celine Boutier, the home favourite, has picked up 3 birdies in 4 holes. She's heading to the 7th tee, having just rolled in a 20-footer to move to 3 under par, and she's in a share of the lead with one of the favourites, the 2-time major champion from the United States, Lilia Vu. She's also 3 under under par through her opening half dozen holes. So they are the pace setters. Georgia Hall for Great Britain got it to 1 under par with a birdie at the third, but dropped a shot at the fourth after driving into some very deep, thick rough on that hole. So she's back to level par, and the news gets no better for her compatriot Charlie Hull. The British star is in dead last position, 60th of 60, 8 over par after 13 holes now.
She's only one shot off, though, the last but one person. I'm trying to see the positive.
Yeah, I'm not sure she'd see that as a positive.
No, I know, and I know. I've played. I know, Charlie, you do as well. She's fantastically competitive, and she'll be very frustrated. But it's the first day of 4.
It is, and there is no cut, so you can clamber your way back. But I just can't help feeling that old adage that on the first day you can't win a tournament, but you can lose it. It does feel very much as though Charlie Hull is in the process of losing any chance. 8 over par is just awful, really, after 13 holes.
Yeah.
Her nearest rival, by the way, is representing Ireland. Northern Ireland's Stephanie Meadow is 7 over after 17 holes, so it's been a miserable day for her as well.
Okay, but I'm going to stay optimistic. Ian, can't help myself.
It's the only way to be.
Yeah, of course it is. Ian Carter, thanks very much. I will be back with him. And of course, you'll get more from Ian as well, with Mark Chapman, who takes over at 1 o'clock. And Mark and the rest of the team will keep you up to date. I mean, we're having a great time. They're having a great time out there as well. It is 21 minutes to 1. Let's break away from the Olympics just for a moment. It's important. It's important we do this because we've had that news. You heard from Bethan in the news update, and you heard from me slightly earlier that 3 men have been jailed for taking part in the violent disorder. That followed the fatal stabbing of 3 girls in Southport last week. Now, these 3 men are the first offenders to be sent to prison for these offences, and it comes after a week of violence in England and Northern Ireland, and the prospect of more today at the very least. So this is Dominic Casciani, who's our Home Affairs and Legal Correspondent. Hiya. Dominic, you're at Liverpool Crown Course. This is a sure sign, isn't it? This is an indication, following the words of Keir Starmer, that justice will be met.
Yeah, hi, Naga. Can you hear me? Sorry,
I can. Yes, I can.
End.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hi. Yeah. I mean, definitely the surest sign yet, because these are the first Crown Court jailings for violent disorder, which is a very serious offence. And I mean, the simplest way to put this is, in the case of one of these men, Derek Drummond, he effectively took part in a mob violent demonstration in Southport 8 days ago. On Monday, he pleaded guilty to that at a lower court, and today, Wednesday, he's been jailed for 3 years. So he's got an awful long time to think about his actions. Just over a week ago, the 2 other men who were jailed alongside him today, one of those, Declan Gearan, he took part in violence in Liverpool on Saturday. He could be seen very clearly and unmasked setting fire to a police transit van, which cost Merseyside Police £32,000 because they've had to write that off. He has been jailed for 30 months. And another man, Liam Riley, he received 20 months after confronting police in Liverpool during the same disturbances here. He'd effectively gone up to police lines and hurled racist abuse at them. His barrister in court today said he'd been drinking for the first time in a pub in an awful long time, and that accounted for some of his actions. The judge, to be frank, Judge Andrew Menery KC, wasn't having any of that in terms of mitigation and gave him 20 months as well. So these are pretty long sentences. In each case, more than a year. The most serious offender getting 3 years. And this will be the benchmark which other courts around the country almost certainly will follow, because they need a guideline here, and they will follow each other. This is what judges do. Other judges will look at what this judge here in Liverpool's done, and I dare say we're going to see an awful lot of sentences like this in the weeks to come.
Dominic, just remind us, how many do we know are kind of due for sentencing who have been charged? Do we have a rough number?
We've had, so about 400 people have been arrested so far. About 100 of those have been brought to court, so it's a quarter. Those who have been charged with violent disorder, whether or not they have pleaded guilty, a lot of them have been remanded into custody to be sentenced later in the month, and that allows the Crown Prosecution Service time to effectively get all its papers in order and also allow the defendants time to get mitigation, whatever arguments they want to make before a court as well. So this is going to kind of like drag out in the weeks to come. As for the others who haven't been charged yet, that's because the Crown Prosecution Service and the police are looking at more serious charges. So in some cases you will have individuals who are facing a potential allegation of rioting. That attracts up to 10 years in prison. We know that there's at least one terrorism investigation going on at the moment. So there's a lot of work to do. So what we're going to see in the coming days, because I think it's about 8 or 9 more sentencings taking place in Liverpool tomorrow and Friday. What we're going to see is the courts dealing with, for want of a better expression, the low-hanging fruit, the ones which are easy. And in the case of today, for instance, Derek Drummond, he could be seen clearly on video demonstrating, if that's the right word, outside the mosque in Southport. He confronted police officers. You can see him punching a police officer. There's no doubt it's him. When he was arrested, he admitted it and told officers he'd let his town down, he'd let the girls down, meaning the murder victims in Southport, and he'd let his family down. And, well, he's now got an awful long time to think about that.
Dominic, thanks very much. That's Dominic Casciani, our Home Affairs and legal correspondent, who's at Liverpool Crown Court, where we now know that the 3 men have been jailed for taking part in the violent disorder that we've seen in the last week. Many more have been charged and are facing sentencing as well, and they will come in the coming days and weeks. It is coming up to 1:45. Let's go back to the Olympics, and we're going to aerial acrobatics in an upside down swimming pool where the sun is shining and knee pads are key. Conor McNamara. Oh, there's a nice roar behind you.
I'm glad you said that knee pads are key. I've just seen Francis Gavin Butcher. No knee pads. Ooh. I mean, you just think you're a glutton for punishment here. He spun around, and when he did come off his board, boy, did he make sure to land on his feet. You see, those who've got the pads, they use them like a footballer celebrating, sliding to the corner flag down on their knees. That's what they do because they know they've the pads to collect. But some of these skaters don't wear the knee pads. I don't know if it's bravado. I don't know what it is. Most of them do, but not all. Some even have little elbow pads. Most of them don't have those. They all wear helmets, of course, but we've seen some heavy falls, and Francis Gavin Butcher was certainly willing to bare his chest and be very very brave down there for his run.
Do you know, if it were me, and this is a lot of people won't get this reference, I'd look like the Michelin Man.
Yeah, Michelin Man. Yeah, absolutely.
I would make sure this was as part of an advert, a tyre advert, and the man was covered in basically big rubber tyres, wasn't he? Just I would make sure I was completely padded. The reason, well, not the only reason, because this is, that was close. The reason we are excited here is because we have the oldest, I'm correct in saying this, aren't I? The oldest Olympic participant, competitor?
No, Olympic skateboarder. So there's a gentleman from South America who in the equestrian who's 65.
That's it.
But Andrew MacDonald, who I love this Naga, right? So he was 12 years of age when he got his first skateboard.
That's late, isn't it?
It probably is in this day and age. He was 12 when he got it. That is 39 years ago, and now he's about to become an Olympian. I mean, talk about a life's journey. He's a 9-time world champion. Before skateboarding got into the Olympics, the big thing was the X Games. He's a 23-time X Game medalist across 5 different disciplines. He's a contemporary of Tony Hawk, people like that. He's had a video game named after him. So, if you've been involved in skateboarding over the last few decades, this guy is a big name. He's born in Massachusetts, but his dad is from Luton, and that's his access into representing Team GB. And he is watching through the different heats that are in progress. We've now got about halfway through the field. The very last skater to take to the skate park here at Place de la Concorde will be Andrew MacDonald for Team GB.
I reckon we're finishing with a bang. That's what I reckon
Keep
we're
the
doing.
best to last.
Absolutely,
that's what we hope.
absolutely. Conor McNamara, I think this is the last time I'm going to talk to you today. Stay cool, man.
You'll be listening, I know.
Of course I will. Thanks. Enjoy
Thank
it.
you.
See you later.
Cheers. Rad.
Bye. I'm going to go to Heat 4 of the women's keirin at the Velodrome, where Alistair Bruce Ball is with Victoria Pendleton. Hello, both again.
Hiya.
Is the air swirling more yet? Because isn't that the thing? that happens in the velodrome.
Well, temperature feels like it's building. We've got quite a long session in here today. It has been staggeringly hot. I mean, I've been in quite a few velodromes in my time, Victor. I don't know why this one feels hotter than any other one I've been in before, but we've seen Katie Marchant go in the first heat of the women's keirin. She's going to have to go through the repechage to try and make it through to the next round. The pace is building at the moment in the penultimate heat, and then Emma Finucane will go in the last heat. So we're going to bring you commentary of that, and I'm going to be really interested, Victoria, as the competition progresses, to get your thoughts on how Emma Finucane rides the keirin and rides the individual sprint. She's a 21-year-old from Wales who has a chance at these Olympic Games of potentially winning 3 gold medals in the sprint events, which has never been done before, has it?
No, it hasn't. It's 2012 was the first year that 3 events were available for women. Big change, thankfully, from 2008, where there was just 1 sprint event for women, which is a bit sad. But there have been mentions of Emma Finucane being someone who could potentially win gold in all 3. She's a very natural racer. I think it will suit her. She seems very relaxed and calm. I don't want to put loads of pressure on her. I don't want to heap loads of pressure on her saying, we're expecting 3 gold medals. But I don't think there's any reason why not.
Victoria. You know, when you were competing and all the commentators would be talking about your prospects or anyone else's prospects, I know you say you don't want to heap pressure on it. How much attention do you pay to them?
Well, it's difficult to avoid it when every single person you meet is like, how many gold medals are you going to win? And you're like, I'm going to try my very best. Because that's all you can actually do.
Specifically with the commentators, like you've just said, I don't want to heap pressure on her, she's brilliant. I mean, do you think she would have heard, or someone will say, or does she have a wrap-up from her coach or anything, or is she kept in almost a bubble, particularly in this day of social
in a
media?
Bit of a bubble, yeah. I mean, tend to avoid looking at social media or, being drawn into too much of those things. But the difference between competing in a World Championships and competing in an Olympic Games is very much the media attention you get and how you sort of manage that. Because a lot more eyes are watching you. There's a lot more opinions to sort of come your direction.
Everyone's
so it's
got
one
an
of the
opinion.
added sort of, I'd say, stresses of being an Olympian.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I mean, we all obviously want the best, don't we, for Team GB? But you kind of have to. You do have to be careful.
We can get carried away sometimes. We can.
Yeah.
We're so successful here that we kind of expect everybody who slips into a GB skin suit is going to bring a medal back.
It's superhuman. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Put their superhero suits on, and the rest is history.
Can I ask a quick question before this next heat starts? So they're all starting to. Is there a bit of a bundle to kind of get in the right order behind the motorcycle?
So
moped?
you'll draw cards. So you'll draw positions, and that will dictate where you have to line up on the track. But if you draw number 1, which it means you're at the bottom of the track, closest to the black line, you have to attempt to get behind the Derny of the bike. If you don't do that, then they will restart. So you have to be seen to it. Somebody could take it off you, but you can't resist taking the bike.
Well explained, Victoria. And the rider in that position on the inside lane for this final heat, Emma Finucane, her first appearance in an individual event at the Olympic Games. The 21-year-old representing Great Britain. On her left has Taki Kouame of France, and you just heard the roar for the announcement of her name inside this arena. So what Emma Finucane is trying to do here is finish in the top 2 and sail through to the next round.
And I'm just going to say she's drawn position 2, which is the best position to draw because it allows you to let that first rider sit behind the bike, and then you can leave a bit of gap and control the rest of the competitors behind you. So drawing number 2 is the best spot possible.
Now that gun can sometimes shock you if you're not watching. That happened to me.
I've been jumping out my seat. I should know better.
Happened to me a couple of races ago where I wasn't looking and suddenly it went off. And the other difference to previous keirin events I've covered is the Derny used to make a lovely sort of growling noise, didn't it? But obviously we're in a more environmentally friendly time now. That's an electric bike going around the track, and you don't get that sort of put.
No.
As it builds up the speed.
But it's quite nice because we get the speed on the scoreboard when it starts building speed, so we can see the bike building up to 50 before it peels off 50 kilometres an hour.
So the bike is going from 30 to 50. Taki Kouame in this race. Emma Finucane, Leah Friedrich, we should watch for her, the German, very experienced sprint rider. Sara Fiorin, the Italian. Nurul Mod Azri, representing Malaysia, and Stephanie Cuadrado Flores of Colombia. And I could just see there, Victoria,
Yes.
Emma Finucane just looking over her shoulder at what's behind her.
She's leaving a bit of a gap, so it gives her a space to run into the lead rider, but she's watching over her shoulder to see any early attacks.
And here come a couple of those, so we're waiting for the Derny to leave the track, and Finucane's got her eyes here on the riders to her right-hand side, and the German Leah Friedrich is trying to take this out down the back straight.
Yeah, it looks like she wants to pick up the pace, go to the front and control the race.
2.5 laps to go. Finucane currently in fourth, but in a good position, not in the bunch, on the outside, and now she's making a move.
Now she's decided to make her move. She's come straight over the top to take lead position. She's going to keep pushing through. I wondered whether she would stop a while and just see, but she's going straight through the bell. She's going to keep the hammer down and go for it.
Powering, as Victoria Pendleton explains, and leaving a right old big gap. Friedrich, the German, is now chasing. Half a lap to go. Finucane, keeping her foot on the pedal here, into the last bend, into the home straight, is easily going to qualify for the knockout round. She's going to win that heat, and Friedrich goes through with her. Victoria.
I mean, the two strongest riders in that heat, in my opinion, went through. Tactically very well played by Emma Finucane. She went to the front, she controlled it. I wondered whether she would pause and reassess the situation, but she wasn't going to take any risks. This is an Olympic event. I think she wants to go straight through to the final, and she took it on like a final race, how you would attempt a final race.
Naga, I went to watch her in the European Championships in Apeldoorn at the start of the year, just to sort of, start to watch riders that we were going to be commentating on this summer, and actually listening to her talk after each race and each event was really interesting, because she's only 21. And, you can practice all you like inside a velodrome, but nothing replaces the competitive match sprint. And at that time, she was saying she was learning to be a bit more aggressive and really assert herself on races. And I thought, Victoria will tell you better than me, that was a good example, Victoria. She just grabbed that by the scruff of the neck, and no one's going
messing.
past.
There was no messing there, was there?
No, I mean, it's how I approached the racing in 2012. Like, I didn't want to leave anything to chance, and I took out every single race. So I went to the front of every race and tried to dictate what happens, because I found, it's easy sometimes when you're intimidated by a situation to double think your attack and think, should I go now or should I not? And at that point, you've already missed out. So you have to be assertive, aggressive. She did a fantastic job.
I'm going to leave you both now. 2 quick questions before I go to Ian, and then I've got to go. 2 quick questions. What golds is Finucane going for?
Kieran and individual sprint.
Okay, and when's the next event that we're going to have from you with Mark Chapman's time?
Well, 20 minutes time is really important, actually, Naga. It's a good one to flag up. So women's team pursuit next up on the track. Great Britain will race the USA, and if they win that race, they're into the gold medal ride. The winners of that race will face New Zealand or Italy for the gold medal, and that'll be about 6:30 tonight. But in 20 minutes' time, that's the next big one. Great Britain, USA, for a place in the Olympic final.
I'll say thank you, Victoria, thank you. Ali, just stay there. Ian Carter, are you there at the golf?
Yes.
At the Golf National. I want to read you both the text. And I know because you know what our listeners are like, right? And you can assume that people are sitting at home or in their car listening, just focused on the Olympics. This is Stu from Northampton. He says, I'm retiring from the police this summer after 30 years of service. I've decided to head to France in my van on my own for the whole of August to take in some of the Olympics and cycle, explore some iconic areas of the country. And I'm currently camping at the foot of Mont Ventoux. Thank you, 5 Live, because you're the best accompaniment when travelling. With Chappers, Naga, Tony Livesey, Kelly Cates, everyone else in my ear, it's like being away with friends. Do stay safe. Isn't that lovely?
That is so lovely, isn't it? That is so lovely, and what a place to be at the bottom of Mont Ventoux. Only one thing better than that, and that's being at the top of Mont Ventoux, I suggest.
But Naga, it goes to prove the point. You cannot beat the drama of live sport on the radio, and we've had an incredible summer of it, haven't we? The Euros and Wimbledon, and Ian and I were at the Open Championship at Troon a couple of weeks ago, and these Olympics have been incredible. And when you can't see the pictures, and when you're in your car, in your kitchen, whatever, and you are solely relying on the voices to describe what is going on, I just think it ratchets up the drama brilliantly.
We may be a little biased, Naga, but I always say the pictures are better on the radio, because it taps into your imagination, and you live it that way, and so it's lovely to hear messages like that.
And it's just lovely to know that we're family. as well. And, people get to know... Our listeners may not have a clue about what we look like or anything, but they know our voices and they know our styles, and they stick with us, which is just lovely. So thank you, Stu in Northampton. Alistair, you've got a busy afternoon. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Naga.
Take care.
Speak soon.
Yes, definitely. Ian Carter at the golf. You were a bit depressing, if I'm being completely honest, the last time I spoke to you. Come on, cheer me up now.
Well, Georgia Hall's going along nicely for Great Britain. 1 birdie, 1 bogey so far in her opening 5 holes. So she is at level par. If you have the thing to get really excited about, really from just a general perspective, is the leaderboard that has a French woman at the top of it. Céline Boutier. She is in the Mont Ventoux summit position right now, 3 under par through 7 holes, and she's got a really high quality player alongside her in Lilia Vu, also at 3 under par. Lilia Vu's completed 6 holes, Boutier 7 holes. The reason we were depressed was because poor old Charlie Hull has really struggled today. Continues to be in last place, 8 over par through 14 holes. But as you can hear behind me, just a fantastic atmosphere on the golf course, and that is in the main being generated by Céline Boutier.
Well, of course, you've got someone in their home nation doing brilliantly well. Never underestimate the power of having a good player in your group. It kind of lifts your game, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. You get dragged along, and that is one of the dynamics at play. She's in a really good group there, and if she can keep going like this, it could be a heck of an event, the women's golf.
Ian, always a joy talking to you. I am slightly jealous, but do enjoy it, Le Golf National. Ian will keep you up to date, as will all the team, of course. I've loved this Olympics so far. More to come with Mark Chapman at 1.